All right, folks, why don't we just get started then? Okay, so let's start off with Jeff Young, who's actually my candidate of the year for the first year that I had the Unified Platform. And he's actually has an amazing background. I hope he talks about it right now. Go ahead, Jeff. Why don't you make some opening remarks? Let's go.
Jeff, you're on mute, Jeff. You're on mute.
All right. I unmuted myself. So I guess DJ, Elf, we probably met each other, I was thinking like 2016. Is that possible? It was that long ago? Okay. We met each other online. So I've been running for office since 2014. That time in Kentucky, I was a Green. I was a member of the Kentucky Green Party, and I ran for the Kentucky House of Representatives, my little section of Lexington, Kentucky, in 2012, and the Green Party barely exists in Kentucky. So we had trouble getting more than, enough, 7 members to be on the executive committee, and they were not interested in doing any work. So I ran in 2012 and just learned the mechanics of how you run for office, how you get on the ballot, and all that kind of thing. 2014. I ran as a Democrat. I went back to my lifelong party at the end of 2013, ran as a Democrat for the U.S. House of Representatives. And the Democratic Party rigged it. They rigged the primary by providing all kinds of in-kind support to my only Democratic opponent, equally unknown candidate. All right. In 2015, I ran for the Democratic nomination for governor. I had one opponent, the current Attorney General, and they rigged that in the same way, and I sued them for election rigging, election fraud, violating Kentucky's statute that says, or the Constitution actually, says all elections shall be free and equal. There's a law in Kentucky that says the leaders of the 2 parties may not they may not nominate anyone other than by lawful means, as described in this chapter. So they violated that law. I started suing them for election fraud. And I filed many lawsuits over the years between 2015 and today, and they've all been thrown out before trial, before discovery. They've been thrown out at the very initial phase. I concluded the entire judicial branch is corrupt. They ignore whatever laws they feel like ignoring. So ran for a governor 2015, U.S. House again as a Democrat 2016, no elections in 2017, U.S. House in 2018 as a Democrat, 2019 for governor. They rigged them all. 2020, let's see, I ran for the U.S. House as a Republican. Yeah, I tried to, I thought maybe the Republican Party doesn't rig all their elections the same way, but they do. And they rigged it in exactly the same way, giving all the support to their favorite incumbent. 2021, no election. 2022, U.S. House as a Democrat again in the primary. and I won that. 2022, I won the primary because no Democrat, no well-known wealthy Democrat wanted to run against me. They didn't want to get sued, I guess. So I actually won the nomination. The entire party, from the Frankfurt headquarters, every county, supported the Republican incumbent for the U.S. House. My entire party supported the enemy. I guess I was a worse enemy in their mind than the existing far right wing, pro-war, corrupt, Andy Barr. So I learned an interesting lesson that year. 2023, ran for governor again. They rigged that. 2024, U.S. House again as a Democrat. They rigged that. I sued them again. And so no elections in 2025. And this year, I'm running for the Kentucky House of Representatives again as a member of the Kentucky Party. 2025, we formed a new party, third party in Kentucky. We have very short, simple bylaws. Our platform is we're pro-peace and anti-corruption, and that's it. And anybody can join the Kentucky Party, any Kentuckian, and we'll help you get elected. And we won't try to tell you to change your position on any issues. We don't have any purity tests like the Democrats and Republicans do. We won't support your opponent. And I think every state should have, there should be an Ohio party, a Massachusetts party, a California party. Every state should do it because the two major parties are 100% corrupt today and 99% evil. They're all pro-war. They all support the genocide going on in Gaza since October 2023. The two parties are worthless. That's my introductory opening statement. If you don't mind.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
You're
Jeff.
welcome.
You're truly an inspiration. For you to run so many times and for you to actually win your primary after
Yeah.
many times is you obviously know the systems of multiple parties, to have Democrats, Republicans, and also Greens. So you bring a wealth of experience to this. And I'm excited to actually also have our opening presenter. You talked about the judge being a problem. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of these elected officials, people worry about the legislature. And I'm not saying, right, you're not doing good work here. You obviously are. But these candidates are also highly prone to control by the party leadership. And how are the judges selected? Actually, Theo Chino is actually one of our opening presenters and actually knows about how this is actually set up. He actually regularly takes people to the Board of Elections and tries to get people thrown off the ballot and defends people who are trying to stay on the ballot, etc. So, Theo, why don't you make your opening remarks about Rep My Black? I'm ambassador for My Black and proud to represent that brand. Go ahead, Theo. Theo, I cannot hear you. You might have to set up your mic something different. Yeah, give me a second. We also have. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, DJ. Thank you for having me. And Jeffrey, I mean, Rep My Block is totally made by the frustration that you just explained 5 seconds. I mean, the way the leadership of the Democratic and the Republican and everybody else does is drive us crazy to the point of doing what you do. And we go to the judges expecting, we need to change the game. And so what I've done, like taking your experience, and I want to talk to you later, is we build Rep My Block. Rep My Block is a tool built by candidate, for ballot access for free. So by removing the financial element from the process, we can make sure that we get ballot access no matter what. And taking from the experience from the Republican, from the Democrat, from the Green, and bringing all that together to remove the weaponization of the ballot access. Because that's how they play it. They play it by weaponizing the whole process before it gets to the ballot is being weaponized to drive candidates like you and myself and even DJ, Dion, and everybody else crazy. So the more we do it, the crazier we get, the crazier we sound, and at the end we go around crying, the system is rigged. And it is. But it's not rigged in a way that people think. It's like you cannot just go and say, here it is. They rigged it because no, it's a psychological game they play. And DJ Health is the best example. I mean, DJ is the most explosive person that I know, and he managed to get on the ballot. And the Board of Election and cannot get rid of him because DJ has learned how to do it right, but right down to the every signature. And so yes, we know we're going to wait a little bit of time, but we know that we make the ballot. And we have another candidate called Paper Love Prince, who is a staunch smoker of weed. So if we can get someone who smoke weed that is so cool into the ballot 5-year running on a municipal ballot here in New York, which is a lot of signature, and they try to kick us out every time, and they haven't managed that, that means the process works. And the process is really about money. And every election lawyer or every consultant will tell you to get on the ballot, you need to pay me, and I will make sure you get on the ballot. So you need to start by $5,000. We remove everything. All you need to do is follow the rule, knock on door, and use sweat equity to get it done. Either on the Republican Party, on the Democratic Party, on the Conservative Party, Dion, or the Working Families Party. We will help you get there. Or independent, doesn't matter. We don't have any, Rep My Block doesn't have any judgment about who should make the ballot and who should vote. It is a question for the voter to decide who will be the candidate that they want them representative. That's where the democracy is. They decide, the voter decides. So we want all the candidates on the ballot regardless. And we do it with a very limited effort. It doesn't take a lot of work. DJF did it. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. Now, what takes a lot of effort is to go out and tell your speech. Come with me, join me. And the thing is, if you do it within what I discovered is if you do it within the Democratic and the Republican Party, you can have a megaphone where they don't want you. You know the leadership doesn't want you, but you still come in because they cannot kick you. You are an elected Democratic member or a Republican member. Oh, and they will drive you nuts. And I can tell you that because DJ saw me going into the Democratic Party with a megaphone. I was screaming megaphone, objecting in a room of about 1,000 people, telling them objection, objection, objection.
If I could just jump in for a second, because I just want to explain to the viewers who may not understand what you're talking about. Rep My Block is an open source software that's available on GitHub. And the thing is, what it does is actually it's an open source software where you can upload the voter database into the system, and then therefore you can go out and do your petitioning work. And that is something that the candidates need. You also can do the canvassing in a directed way. And we also provide data for which states and how much they charge for the voter database. There's other information that's highly classified or not really shared. Some power can be given, some must be taken. But that's why we have the professional consultants here. And Theo Chino once again has a documentary on PBS called County, and that's quite astounding. So I'm proud to work with him. And just I know he's kind of blazing ahead on step 5, but a lot of people need to go back to step 1 and know where Rep My Block is, right? Okay. So we just had an amazing presentation by Grace Marrero, the district leader of the Conservative Party at the in front of Al Sharpton's office. What we need is district leaders. We need people who can take over election districts and who know and who have a relationship with the people who are actual voters. That's what My Block is all about. And all the antics that Phil and myself do, I mean, that's cool. But really, what we need grassroots level mobilization. So, name Rep My Block. Sure. Okay. So we'll put that in the. I will definitely share that with everybody afterwards. So, any last words, Theo? Go ahead.
Well, DJ, what we do basically, we're looking for volunteers who know how to get on, like Jeffrey. You know how ballot access works in Kentucky. So we need to develop a network of ambassadors like DJL, who's an ambassador. So all that puts the logo Rep My Block on his literature, that does all that, and basically get the word out to work within the philosophy of each person to build a movement around what they believe, to get all the people who believe the same on the ballot as a team. So you have it. DJ, it's always a pleasure to see you, even though I never come to the event. But
it's all good. Thanks for coming this
because
one.
you're the ambassador. The idea is the ambassador has the role of telling people what this is about. And
absolutely. And just so you know, I work with many different tools, but I do like to have contingencies. But one thing, just so you know, this may be national security. I worked for a Chinese candidate recently, and there was actually a Chinese language app called eCanvasser, which all the language. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be like racist or anything like that. I'm Asian American myself, but there's in New York City, we're a huge target for foreign, countries trying to learn about how our electoral system works. And they already are developing their own apps where they can inject all this voter data in there, right? And the information on who votes and where. And this is actually being shared on foreign language apps right now. So who knows who's getting this data, right? So as a grassroots, if we as Americans do not start to, so that's enough of me. So actually, to the highlight of today's show, okay, Jay Townsend, actually, if you do a search on YouTube and you type in the word political consultant, he's the first and pretty much the only name that comes up. That's a highly desired slot by any candidate who's running. They want to know how to come up in the search results. They want to know how they can be recognized. I'm sorry, Dean, you want to say something? But we're going to go ahead.
I was going to put it in the chat. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same eCanvasser because I worked the campaign and use it. So I just want to make sure.
Could be. Okay. So we're going to have a quick presentation by Jay Townsend, our keynote speaker. His amazingly his qualifications are top notch. We're very lucky to have him here today. Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. Let me ask a question here about you. How many of you think that you may run for office someday? Jeffrey, I already know the answer to that question from you, but how many plan to run for office someday? Or we'll think about it. Okay. I want to address what you've been talking about. The rules about getting on the ballot are written by the leaders of the two parties in legislative bodies in 50 different states. I'm not sure that any two states are the same. And those rules also are fashioned by counties and cities who sometimes have their own set of rules within the confines of what legislatures allow. So naturally, if you have the leaders of two major political parties writing the rules about who gets to run and what minor parties are allowed to exist, they are going to make this as difficult as possible. I happen to live in a state where it is incredibly difficult. If I know some of you live in New York, but it is hell to get on the ballot in New York. As a major party nominee, it's even harder to get on as a minor party candidate. And I mention this just to remind you all, the rules are set there to trip you. They make them difficult. And while New York is difficult because of the sheer number of signatures you have to get that withstand a lawsuit that challenges the validity of those signatures, you can go to other places, and I'll mention just one, the state of Arkansas. If you're a Republican wanting to run for Congress in Arkansas, You cannot get on the ballot there unless you cut a check for $30,000 to the state Republican Party, which effectively eliminates anybody who can't come up with $30,000 just to get on the ballot. That's $30,000 that's not spent on advertising or candidate travel or anything else. So the rules are unjust. Maybe one of these days we'll get some reform, but about the only choice we have now is make sure we understand the rules, follow them to the T, and be prepared for when your signatures or your check is challenged. Right. Now, I come from a different angle here. I just work in a lot of campaigns where this is kind of pro forma, how we get on the ballot and is taken care of at the staff level. Quite often, I'm brought into campaigns to help guide the strategy. And I want to give you an overview today, and it applies to you even if you don't have a consultant helping you. What I call the 5 pillars of a decent campaign strategy. I'm going to try and put this on the screen and see if it works. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say one thing at the outset today. If you are going to take notes on anything, take notes on these 5. These are the 5 pillars of a political campaign. Once you are fairly certain that you can get on the ballot, if one of those pillars is not there, you will fall short. So they're all equally important. And I'm going to go through each one of these in detail, but these 5 things are worth remembering because they are boxes to check as you put together a campaign. And the very first one is in some ways the most important. This has been my experience in a political campaign. If you do not have a compelling message, no matter how much money you spend, you're going to have difficulty getting traction. And proof of that is there is a whole political graveyard in the United States of wealthy people who tried to buy their way into office and came up short because their message sucked. So it has to be useful. If you've got this right now, I'm going to go into a little bit about what these are and what the considerations are. Everybody got this one? Okay. What is a campaign message? They are questions that voters have for you that they expect you to answer and put in front of their eyeballs in a political campaign. And if voters knew to ask these questions this way, this is what they would ask a candidate. What are you going to do for me? And I hate to burst anybody's bubble who's in public life, but voters really do not care about you. They care about what they're going to get from you. So, question is, what are you going to do for me? What wrongs are you going to right? What injustice are you going to correct? What policies are you going to advance that will improve my quality of life? If your campaign message does not address that, if it's missing that element, you really don't have a campaign message. So I'm going to stop there in case anybody has a question about that. No questions?
We agree.
Okay. The second thing is what I call your value statement. Now, here's the thing. You can promise people the world, but they also need to know a little bit about what grounds you. So here's an example. I saw it happen once. I'm sitting in a room in a rural county in Texas. And this candidate got up to talk, and he absolutely had them eating out of his hand. And then somebody, after he finished, said, "What church do you go to?" He says, "I don't go to a church. I'm an atheist." His campaign was over at that point because his values and that culture, everybody in that room goes to a church, and they think everybody in that county ought to be going to a church. And when he says, "I don't go to a church, I'm an atheist," it ran counter to everybody in the room and their fundamental notions of what their candidate and their office holders should be. Clearly a case of somebody whose values was out of sync with those in the room. Now, that is an extreme example, but somewhere along the way, voters need to know that you care about the same things they care about. And quite often in political campaigns, we demonstrate that with pictures. A picture of a candidate with a group of disabled veterans says that candidate cares about veterans. A candidate reading a book to a little girl on a sofa says that candidate cares about little kids. A candidate listening to students on a college campus says, I care about what young people think. Something about your moral code needs to be incorporated into your advertising. The third element of a campaign message is what makes you qualified to do the job. Now, a caution, sometimes candidates get really carried away with their resume and they think that's all voters care about, and they'll stand up and they'll give a 5 or 10 minute speech, and all they talk is about everything they've done in their life. Voters don't care about that. All they do want to know is that you've held positions of responsibility, that you have some minimal level of qualifications, that you're capable of doing the job. That's enough to tell them, but you got to tell them something that says, okay, this candidate's got his act together or got her act together. The fourth element is questions that voters have is, how do I know I can trust you? Voters are pretty cynical. They're used to promises that aren't kept. They're used to hearing politicians promise the moon and delivering nothing. So I'm going to take AOC as an example. Something that she has done through the years. She is despised by some, but she's also loved by some in her district. They trust her to do the right thing when she's not looking. How did she earn that trust? How did she demonstrate to voters that she can always be trusted to do what is right by them? Now, they've gotten that impression throughout her career, but they also got that impression in her very first campaign with the video that she put out that won her the election. She put it up, I remember it was 2018. It was about a 2.5 minute video that she put on Facebook. And it was so compelling. The passion in her voice, the way she talked about the underserved, the way she railed about what her opponent had done and who he spoke for, that she established, and in a way, she did a better job of answering that question, why should I trust you, of any of the candidates that I've seen since. It is an essential element because if they trust you, they'll put up with you having a different position than they do, but not the other way around. Now, the fifth piece and component of your campaign message is you have to very clearly, during the closing portion of a campaign, make sure that voters understand what makes you different, why you are the better choice than the candidates you're running against or your opponent. Put it in black and white. Make it clear what they get from you that they will never get from your opponent. highlight what you are willing to say that your opponents can't say or won't say. Emphasize the policy positions that you're going to advance that your opponent won't. If you make it abundantly clear, voters have a rather easy way of figuring out who they're going to vote for. So this is kind of what I call the 5 basic elements of a campaign message. All of them are pretty important in a political campaign if you expect voters to get a comprehensive idea of what you're all about. Any questions? Okay, let's go to targeting. And the 3 basic questions you start with. You look at the electorate that you have to appeal to. I was just on a phone call an hour ago with somebody who is going to run for office. He has to win a primary. And I put up a map on the screen. I put up a demographic profile of the electorate. And I started asking him questions. Is there a particular part of this district where people are going to know you well, where you have high name recognition and respect, where you can expect that they're going to vote for you? And he said, yes, it's up in that corner of the district. I'm very well known there because I live there. And I said, okay, now, are there people whose income and economic status would suggest that they may be inclined to support you? He said, yeah, I have a far better appeal to working class voters than I do people who are really, really wealthy. And I said, good. Well, there are a lot of working class voters in this electorate. And I said, let's talk about age groups. What's your appeal to younger voters versus older voters? And he said, well, I have a long history of really fighting for things that help senior citizens. I've fought to cut their property taxes because a lot of them have trouble paying their property tax bill. I've worked hard to cut drug prices. I've made sure that we are talking about improving elder care in this jurisdiction. He says, that should really be one of my strengths. Okay, that got the conversation started. Next thing we did, I says, is who are the voters here that are never going to support you, no matter what you say? And he said, those voters that are making more than $500,000 a year are not going to buy anything I say, because I've said they need to pay more in taxes to help underclass voters. I said, so you're saying there's no point in even trying to advertise to these people? And he said, absolutely not. They're not going to vote for me. If they live in that gated community in those expensive homes, they got no reason to like me. That's not my base. So that's an example of one thing that we were able to take out of the target list, because as he says, no point in even talking to them. We then looked at the electorate and said, okay, well, we're not sure these are working class. Some people have college degrees, but they live in working class occupations. He says, those are people I can persuade, because I can talk about how I'm on their side and I'm going to tax the wealthy to provide something for them. When we were done with that discussion, we then took stock of the people we got rid of, the people we included, and we were able to come up with the size of our target list. How many people are we going to target in this campaign to put ads in front of eyeballs? There's another campaign I worked on this morning. It's a primary in Texas. It's a really hot primary. We went through that exercise 6 months ago. In that particular case, I got 49,000 people on our target list. They are seeing every ad that we put out. That's the exercise that we did. We started with a congressional district with 650,000 people, and we narrowed it down to a finite list of 49,000 who are seeing our ads. Nobody else is seeing them. That's an example of targeting. Now, everybody's got their favorite tool. I use a software, and I'm just going to mention it in passing because you can get a free trial. And I'm going to put it here if this thing will let me do it. This is a private data vendor. They're one of 3 major data vendors in the United States. I find their software easiest to use. But essentially what they do is they acquire from all 50 states the list of registered voters. And when they know the names and addresses and the age of those voters, they start appending to each record things that they can get from other sources. So I was looking at one of their databases this morning. They can tell me the household income. They can tell me the education level. They even can tell me the credit scores. That's pretty granular data, and that is really invaluable when you're trying to figure out what pieces of the electorate that you can grab. Let's go to the advertising. All right, now say this at the outset. If you're running in a jurisdiction where there are less than 3,000 households, you can knock on doors, and that's the most effective advertising you can do, is going door to door and engaging voters at their front door. It is. You can win a city council race in a small jurisdiction by going door to door, even if you do no advertising. Plus, it's also cheap. All it costs you is time and shoe leather. But most cases, when you've got more than 3,000 people, it's going to be difficult for you and you alone to go knock on every door. And that's where you have to resort to paid advertising. So I've put a few of these here that are kind of staples in the industry right now. Starting with what we call digital IP advertising or targeting. Every person on this phone call is online, which means you have an IP address. And that IP address is unique to you. It's your house or wherever you are. You are using an IP address. There are companies in the United States that maintain an inventory of hot IP addresses that are in use down to the household level. You can now put ads through their system and make a banner ad appear when they log onto their computer and open a website. Very sophisticated. You can also serve people video ads using the same technique. Of all the ways it is to get your logo, your picture in 6 to 8 words in front of their eyeballs, it is the cheapest possible way to do it. There's also texting. An email is a way to disseminate a message. Texting will generally cost you between 5 and 7 cents per text. Email, other than the cost to acquire a good email list, the only cost is what vendor you're using to disseminate the email, whether it's MailChimp or Constant Contact or what have you. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are 3 social media channels that will permit you to advertise. Facebook and Instagram will allow you to do it down to the person. Here's the way it works. You construct your target list, you upload that list into Facebook. You got to have a political campaign account to do it. And what Facebook will do is match the names and addresses to known Facebook accounts. And then you pay Facebook, after you've created an ad, you pay Facebook to serve that ad to them every time they log into Facebook and Instagram. The downside of this is about half the people in the country anymore do not have an Instagram account or no longer have a Facebook account. That's the downside. The upside is you can reach at least half your voters individually. There is no more precise way to target than by individual person. YouTube does not allow you to target by person, but it will allow you to target by demographic segment or zip code. So if you're running in a general election and you want to hit a certain zip code, what you can do is buy time on YouTube, and when people have clicked on a video to watch something about cooking or whatever, before they can watch it, they're fed your ad. There are 5s, there are 10s, there are 15s, and they can't get out of it until they've seen it all. Much to my surprise, one day I logged into my YouTube account and I couldn't watch my own videos because Bernie Sanders gave me a 15-second pitch to give him money. He actually bought time on my YouTube channel. The next thing is what we call streaming TV. If you're in a local race, it works well. TV is called over-the-top and connected TV. OTT is essentially this. I'm a household that's OTT. I do not have a cable subscription, but I have high-speed internet. I'm an OTT person. There's connected TV. Those are the ones connected to a TV through a cable outlet. Of course, there's cable advertising. If you are running in a jurisdiction and you can buy time as a Democrat, say, and you can buy time on MSNBC, it's probably something you'd want to do because it has a very progressive audience. If you're running in a Republican primary, you're probably going to want to buy Fox News. That's cable. If you're running for governor of Georgia, you're going to have to buy commercial. The Atlanta market is its own TV market. There are 3 or 4 down in South Georgia, but most of the voters in Georgia watch Atlanta TV. They live in that DMA area of dominant influence, and you'll have to use it. It is really expensive, but it's efficient because you're reaching millions of voters every time your TV ad runs. I will also mention persuasion mail. It does cut through the chatter. A lot of the digital stuff, electronic stuff, is hit or miss. And some candidates still swear by it, and I understand it. Why? It's because nothing beats having a piece of paper in your hand that you get in your mail. I live in New York City. I was a targeted voter last year. I kept every mail piece I got in that race for mayor we had last year, and I kept them all. Believe it or not, I'm busy. When it came time for me to vote, I looked at those mail pieces to make my decision. So don't dismiss mail. The problem with mail is to put a mail piece in somebody's hand, you're going to spend between 65 cents and $1 to get it to them. By the time you do the printing and the postage, it's a lot more expensive than, say, digital IP advertising. But it's a very useful advertising tool. In some communities, not all of them, radio still has an application. And I'm doing a campaign this year in Arkansas where we start our radio ads next week for a March primary. It is not all that expensive and it works well. Any questions at this point?
You're doing great.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
All right.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned data.com. How come you didn't mention L2 data? Because they're very famous for their reporters.
No, I did say L2 data.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. Never mind. That's what you wrote down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, L2 data.
Oh, okay, I see. I thought it was number 5. Ooh.
There's nothing glamorous about writing a campaign budget. But if you don't have a budget, you do not have a strategy. The sheer exercise of going through an Excel file and figuring out what your staff costs over the course of a campaign, what it's going to cost you for handouts, palm cards, yard signs, volunteer coordinator, field director, fundraising consultant, digital consultant, and all of this stuff, it really concentrates the mind, because when you fill in all the numbers that you're going to need to pay your staff and all of the ways that you are going to advertise, you'll be shocked at how expensive it is. I do budgets for every single one of my clients because it forces us to make difficult decisions early on. Yes, we're going to do this. No, we can't afford to do that. Because what happens if you have no budget discipline is you start trying to do everything. And if you're not properly funding something that you're doing, the initial investment is going to go to waste. Case in point, I had a candidate who did not read his budget or said yes when he saw it, and then found out after 2 months that he was running short of money. Well, at that point, we had spent a lot of money on Facebook, and we were almost to the point where we were getting past the halfway point. You got to spend a certain amount of money on Facebook, what we call frequency and reach. And he says, I got to cut it off. And I said, you're going to waste every dollar you spent. Because if we don't complete this piece of it, they're not going to remember what you've said. We have to get the frequency to a certain point first. And he said, I should have paid more attention. So the money he spent on Facebook went to waste. So if you've started a campaign and you do not have a budget, if you figured out a strategy and you don't have a budget to go along with it, stop what you're doing and create one. Because if you don't, at some point, you're going to run out of money, and usually you'll run out of it at the worst possible time. Once you have that budget, the final pillar is this. You got to figure out how you're going to raise it. Simple as that. You can craft $1 million budget, but if you can only raise $500,000, you got to revise that budget. So these are 7 different ways that candidates raise money. And under the who section, these are 5 different kinds of people who give money to political campaigns. Now, while we're on this page, it should be self-explanatory, but let's open this up to questions, not only about this page, but everything else I've said here, and see what questions may be in front of you.
I had a question, or Theo.
Sure.
Go ahead, Leon.
Okay. Where do I guess maybe three interest groups, but
Mhm.
where do the major political parties and clubs play into this? Or you haven't gotten to that, either the endorsement process
I'm
or
talking about fundraising here, but yes, the Democrat Party is an interest group.
DSA.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would include them in interest groups. Candidates, once they're nominated by a party, sometimes get campaign contributions from the party to help them. These are broad categories, of course.
Well, Jay, just to follow up, I don't know if they told you, but I would love to have you as part of the Rev My Block Intelligentsia to build the system for those poor candidates that that use our tool but don't have the knowledge that you have, and figure out how to change the presentation you did for a $0 campaign kind of deal, where consultants get paid but they still lower the price so they can use the budget for more uh, outward stuff.
Mhm.
But to be talked on at a later time, I guess.
Right. Look, I always suggest this, and don't want it to sound self-serving, even if it is. I've had candidates call me. They can't afford me. And I say, okay, you can't afford me to be all in on your campaign and do all of this for you, but would you like to have a call every 2 weeks just to make sure you're not off on a tangent or not making a mistake? And I have several clients like that. So basically, I give them the tools to do it on their own. And I look over their shoulder to make sure that they're not making a mistake.
And that's where maybe Rep My Blog can help, because that allows you to follow up on them without you having to be micromanaging and them calling you every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So maybe we can figure out a way to, because the thing is, we remove, like, for example, we use L2 data. If a campaign wants to use L2 data, they use the same ID that we use.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we silo every campaign. But so to be talked later, I think we're directing you and I. My series of questions is also self-serving in how to make Rep My Blog better.
Right.
For
Okay.
that. So DJ, thank you for connecting us. I guess.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I would like to know, what are we to do about the corruption? There's a lot of corruption in the election process. No
Mhm.
one of any importance has ever been put into a power position in any state of our union, unless they're a Democrat or a Republican. So, I mean, unless you go for one of the big parties, you're not going to get voted in anyways.
Uh,
If I could just respond to that real quick. Look, the thing is that he's teaching us right now how to win our races so we can take on the corruption. So right now, his information is stupendous. I want to get to it because actually my question is actually about the fundraising, which is really core, right? That's why it's hard for you to be competitive against those other candidates. And he's about to release the information on the fundraising, which is really critical. So I appreciate the question, but we're definitely getting to that. Ralph, a quick question. I know you're also I know you're fighting corruption as well by making data transparent. But I do want to hear the rest of the presentation because I know Jay's got to leave supposedly at 3. And this is gold right here, guys. This is really gold. So, quick question,
Okay.
Ralph, and please let Jay finish because I'm dying to hear the rest of the presentation. I'm so sorry.
So I'm just going to say this.
Yeah.
I've had candidates call me, and I look at the demographic data and I look at their situation, and I have to say, you're running in a district that you cannot win. the rules. It's, a progressive Democrat cannot win an election in rural Iowa. Some right winger from rural Iowa cannot move to New York and win an election in Bed-Stuy. That's just the way it is. All right. So sometimes I say to them, do you want to run anyway? Knowing that it's an uphill battle. And sometimes they say yes. What they want is the podium that comes with being a candidate, because they know they're going to get covered by the media, and it's a chance for them to advance a cause. So let's take your corruption example, Susan. You get a nomination of some party or another, and they consider you a legitimate candidate worth covering. Even if you're running in a race where you cannot win, you have the right to talk about whatever you want to talk about that entire campaign. You can, if it gets bad enough, also win an election when people get so sick of the corruption that they're willing to turn to someone who's not going to steal their money. I think it depends on the level of corruption going on. It's worse in some places than it is in others. I would love for someone to come along and say, enough of these rigging the ballot access laws. Anybody can give $10 to the Board of Elections and their name ends up on the ballot. I would love to wipe that slate clean, because it's a game that's played by both parties and it's unfair. But take quite a movement to get that done.
Yeah, I just want to ask a short question.
Mhm.
Just as Ralph, did you say you're in New York, Jay?
Yes.
Are you in New York? Yeah, so am I, and I happen to be in Bed-Stuy, exactly what you just referenced.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And I'd like, as Teo said, I'd like to thank GJ for getting us all together, and I'd like to talk to you afterwards also, because I'm a computer programmer like Teo, and we could do a lot of good things here in New York.
Okay.
So thank you. That's kind of my statement.
I'm going to put my email address in here, and you are welcome to email me and we'll set up a time to talk.
I may have missed the chat. You sent L2 data in the chat too? Is that what you
No,
sent?
but I'll put it there if you like.
Jay,
Cool.
if you want, I can send you my contact information at L2 so you can talk to them, because they've been hunting me saying buy my service, and so I'll send it to you and you can talk to them on my behalf if you want.
Yes, I've used those guys before.
They're
And I want,
at calling me.
and Dion's actually a good supplier of all this stuff too. So God bless you, Dion.
God bless Grandmaster Theo, who actually taught me these things. And by the way, New York State, just give you a shameless plug, New York State has actually streamlined a lot of these things. If you go to the state website, they update it now with all of us. Even Jay, you're listed on New York State's elections.ny.gov now under a profile. All of us as former candidates have a profile now that they're adding information. So thanks to Theo and his hounding, they've updated the system to provide, these different things. But I have a question when you're ready.
Well, I just wanted to say to Susan, because the corruption part that she's talking about is, like you said, Jay, as many candidates who have different issues, but that cannot win, need to make the ballot to get that podium to move the discussion. So by giving away the stuff, by giving the tool for zero, you end up having a lot of those candidates that want the podium and get the podium to push their issues. So the corruption, there is nothing we can do. Like Jay said at the beginning, the Democrat and the Republicans, by the Constitution of New York, for example, are the one who decide what the election will be. And they will use everything on the side as a way to put guns in the wheel of the other party, if that can help them. If they need a green on the ballot, they allow the green to be on the ballot. If they think the green will cause the problem for their candidate, they will remove that green on the ballot. So basically, the third party are just puppet of the two parties to do harm or not to the other. So the way I would say to add to Jay is that's how the system works. We cannot do anything about it. It is how the Constitution of New York is, and we can go crazy like Jeffrey Young and go to the court and fight them, but each time we lose. So the thing is, we need to play the game the only way we know how to play it, and they use money as a way to get us to get there. So we need to figure out how to do it without money.
And Theo is right. This is the one place where the Republicans and Democrats agree to crush independent voices. Yeah.
Okay, I'm dying to hear the rest of his presentation because the thing is that he's just about to tell us about how to fund the campaign, and I'm literally homeless because of the the blackballing that I'm experiencing from Republicans and Democrats. So let's get to the business of learning how to make money, because the thing is that you can't rely on volunteers like me to slave away and do all this stuff for free. You're killing me out here. So please, Jay, share with us your fundraising information.
Say that again. I didn't hear you clearly.
You were about to share in your presentation, you had the breakdown of these are the different ways that you can do a fundraiser, and these are different communities you can go to ask for a fundraiser. So one of my questions is, the thing is that the low-level volunteers, they have us go out on the streets, but they don't, the party leads and the campaign consultants, they have a list of people who formally donated to a campaign, very valuable information. They don't just send any volunteer there. They make sure that someone who knows what they're doing is talking to these people to make sure that they get another donation or whatever. So we were just getting to that in your presentation, what are the best ways to fundraise for a campaign?
All right, let's go back to this. Can you see this?
Yes.
All right. There's no perfect way. I'm just going to now take you through it. Anytime someone calls me and says, I got to start raising money, he said, tell me how to do it. First thing to do is take this out. We all have one of these now, and inside is a contact list. Go through that contact list and look for people who would recognize your face if they ran into you in Paris, France, or would recognize your voice if you called them on the phone. Inside that list is gold. It is the people who know you and respect you and believe in your integrity and your character. If you're like most, you're going to see names you have no idea how they got there, but you're also going to see names of people you would recognize. Make a list of those people on your contact list. The second place to look is your Facebook friends. That comes with pictures. You can open up your Facebook account and look at the pictures and the names. And what you will probably see are the names and pictures of people you forgot that you know. Anybody that you've encountered in your life with whom you have some sort of bond or experience is fair game to call and ask for a campaign contribution. The third place to look is your LinkedIn connections. Most of us do have LinkedIn accounts. We got people on there that we don't know, but we got people on there that we solicited to be a connection way back when we started them. That is the starting point. When I say direct solicitation, no non-incumbent can refuse to be involved in fundraising. If you're a non-incumbent, you don't have a ready list of contributors that you can go to and say, give me money because I'm running for office again. You have to be involved in your own fundraising because it takes you to get money from your family, your friends, and your relatives. No one can do that better than you can. Now, as you do this, in theory, you're going to find a few people who say, sure, I'll give. and they may even give generously. Treat that person like a kernel of corn that you plant and you water and you fertilize, because the person who gave you money also knows other people who can give you money. And they can connect you to people in their contact list that they know, but you don't. Now, I'll take this to just 2 or 3 examples here. I was newly hired to help a candidate who wanted to run for Congress, a first-time candidate. She wasn't poor. They come from a fairly well-to-do family. And I went through this with her, and I said, truthfully, when you file your next FEC report, if you want people to pay serious attention to your campaign, they need to see that you've managed to raise a lot of money in a very short period of time. And I said, let's go through your contact list and figure out who you know that may be able to get to you. Well, one of those people she came across was Danny, a guy named Danny. And she says, well, Danny's been a lifelong friend. Danny's a very wealthy businessman. Let me call, she was in New York when Danny was in Florida. She says, let me call Danny and see what Danny can do to raise some money for me in Florida. I sat there. Danny said, how much do you need? She says, I got to raise $250,000 in the next 3 weeks. Danny says, I'll raise you 80. Just like that. Now, it's a kind of out of the box kind of example, but Danny owned a lot of companies. Danny bought a lot of stuff from vendors. Danny, all he needed to do was call some of those vendors and say, I got this friend running for Congress in New York. I want you to cut me a $2,000 check and have it in my office in the next 10 days. Make it out to this campaign. Danny raised her $80,000. That's an example of surrogate fundraising. It's people who have given to you, who take it upon themselves to help you raise more money. Now, that could be somebody who gave you $1,000, who says, you know what? I'll host a cocktail party for you, and I'm going to invite these friends to my house on a Sunday afternoon. We'll charge them $150 to come, and you come spend a couple hours with them. That's one way. Some candidates will say, you know what? I know people who could probably pay $3,500 and it would come to dinner. And you sit down and spend an entire evening with them, and I'll put on a real nice dinner. We'll have 8 or 10 couples here, but you got to promise me that you got to at least spend 2.5 hours having a nice conversation with them. I see that go on all the time. Sometimes a potential surrogate will say, I don't want to do a party. I don't want to do a dinner, but you know what? I'll connect you via email with some people that I think are capable of giving to you. I had a case a couple of years ago where an attorney who was prominent said, I don't want to call anybody. I don't want to email anybody, but I'll say something nice about you. And you can put whatever nice thing I said about you in a letter, and I'm going to give you 20 people whose names you should send that to. We did the letter. It was a 1-page letter with a nice little quote from the attorney about how much he appreciated this candidate and had maxed out to this candidate. That letter raised $10,000 in a week. The names he gave us were really good names. But all it took was that quote. Now, he wouldn't call, he wouldn't email, but he was willing to do that. So that's an example of surrogate fundraising. Once you've had somebody give you money, you treat them with TLC. You maintain a relationship with you because they're essentially investors in your cause. Texting and email, I'm going to touch upon this. I really did like AOC when she ran that campaign because she was proof to me that democracy still works. And she knocked off that guy who'd spent 20 years in Congress. I gave her $20. To this day, 7 years later, I get a text message every day from AOC and an email every day. She never stops asking for money. The secret of her success is that she will prospect. I've seen her run ads on Facebook soliciting fresh donors. But once you've indicated an interest in her or visited her website, she has no qualms about chasing you. Now, here's what's interesting to me is every text message and every email I get from her not only asks for money, but it's about a cause she's trying to promote. Now, on the left, AOC raised $10 million in the first 3 months of 2025. That's how good her list is now. Marjorie Taylor Greene also raised something close to $10 million in small donations. When she was active, she's not doing it anymore, but she never stops asking for money. The fifth one I'll talk about here are what we call large and celebrity events. I'll use this as an example. A client of mine decided to have a big fundraiser in his community, invited 300 people. Couldn't get in the door unless you paid. The celebrity that he advertised that was going to speak at that event was a star football player who was still a household name among a lot of people in the state of Arkansas. He was considered a celebrity. The football quarterback that took them to a championship game. So if you know a celebrity, could be an author, could be a singer, could be a musician, could be a star athlete, could be a prominent political figure, could be someone who is a noted blogger or podcaster or YouTuber. Ask them if they'll come speak at your event, then sell tickets. If you don't know any celebrities, I've seen this done. You invite a bunch of people to a dog and bean dinner on Saturday afternoon, tell them to bring the kids for free, and you serve them chili and hot dogs. You get the chili and the hot dogs donated and you make some money when a family pays $15 to sit there and eat food. I've seen that work. So there are lots of creative ways to do this. But those are a few ways that you tackle it. But this is the axiom about it. Nobody wakes up wondering if you need a campaign contribution. You got to tell them you need it. You got to tell them why you need it. And sometimes you have to ask them a lot of times. Sometimes they need to see progress in your campaign before they give. But if you don't ask, you don't get. As for who gives to your campaign, we talked about the first two. let's talk about the interest groups for a second. For every cause, there's generally an interest group that pushes that cause. Moms for Liberty. I've heard that name today. They have a cause to push. Sometimes they give money to candidates. Pro-life groups, pro-choice groups, Emeraldy's List, environmental interest groups. You name a cause, there's an interest group. And quite often they give money. Now, how do you know which ones? You go look at the campaign reports that have been filed in your jurisdiction or your state, and you look at the interest groups that have given to candidates in the past. They're there. Pick the ones with which you are naturally aligned and call them and ask them, or interview them, or ask them for a campaign contribution. Number 4, not all candidates run against somebody who's absolutely hated. But if you do have the luck of running against somebody who's despised, there are a lot of people who may give you money just because they don't like your opponent. Do you remember a guy named Beto O'Rourke in Texas? He raised $85 million in his race against Ted Cruz for the Senate in 2018. It wasn't because they loved Beto. It's because at that time there are a lot of people in the country who absolutely despised Ted Cruz. Lindsey Graham from South Carolina ran into the same problem. In his last Senate race, he discovered there were a lot of people in the country that really don't like him either, because his opponent raised $115 million. He still got beat, but he scared the bejesus out of Lindsey Graham. So don't dismiss this, that there may be people who don't like the person you're running against. They'd be more than willing to help you win. Now, the final thing I'll talk about are what we call investors. What's an investor? If you're running for an office where you have some authority over certain kinds of people, or you're voting on appropriations for certain kinds of services, there are people who have to do business with that government entity. They're going to want access to you if you win. And if they think there's a possibility that you might win, they're going to be amenable to making a contribution to you. Now, I'm being really candid about the way money works. And I'm going to say this at the outset. I had a candidate tell me that he wasn't going to ask anybody for money because that would corrupt him. And I said, here's your problem, that you're corruptible. Doesn't make you corrupt to ask others to help you advance your cause. But if you're afraid that asking for money is corrupting, it's because you don't have the moxie to tell a contributor no. You're afraid that because they give you $1,000 that you got to do anything and everything they would ask you to do. And that's your problem, not their problem. Don't let it bother you. If it's green and they're willing, take it. It doesn't need to change your moral code or what you're willing to say no to or yes to.
You see, that was going to be my question, Jay, if I could chime in. I was going to address that for Susan, that even me, when you get to a certain point, you should be discerning of whose money you take. And that is one way to, I think, weed out corruption long-term with your personal campaign. But here's my question for you. Do you ever talk any of your clients down from running for office or running for a more winnable position that may be a lower position? For example, I have people that I'm running for Congress that don't even know anything about the game. And I was like, well, you should take a step below, since you're from New York like me, and run for assembly this cycle, because that may be more winnable for you, a small pool. So that's my question. Have you ever talked clients down? You know what I mean?
Have I?
Yes.
I make clear they understand how high the mountain is. Now, let's take Congress. 82% of the people who serve in Congress held a different office before they were elected to Congress. That is almost the American way to work your way through the political system. You're elected to something, you do a good job, you gain prominence, you gain a following, then you maybe go from city council to running for the state legislature, and you put in a few good years. Let me take Chuck Schumer as an example. He was elected to the New York Assembly when he was 22 years old. He did a pretty good job, and then he ran for Congress. And he sat there for many, many years until he got a shot at Al D'Amato in 1998. Then he took his leap. That's the traditional way to prominence in Congress and the U.S. Senate. Some members of Congress serve a few years and then they run for the U.S. Senate in their states. Now, there are ways around that. But you got to come to a campaign with a certain number of what I call chips to pull it off. Chips you got on the table when you sit down that makes you a prominent candidate having never held another office. Now, these chips come in this form. You've latched onto an issue and it's catching on like wildfire, and you can ride that to prominence with eloquent speeches. That's one. Those are a form of chips. Barack Obama owes his success in politics in part to the eloquence of his words. So did Ronald Reagan. They were magnetic people who were very well spoken. John Kennedy probably won the presidency because of, in part, his ability to inspire people. All right. Another form of chips. I'll take Michael Bloomberg. When he sat down at the table, never having held elected office, and said, I want to run for mayor, he's immediately taken seriously. Why? Because he had $100 million in his back pocket. Let's take Bernie Sanders. What does he bring to the table? He's got a rock hard constituency inside the Democratic Party. If he announced tomorrow that he was going to run for president, he's immediately taken seriously. Let's take Donald Trump. The only elected office he ever held was the presidency. What did he start with? He was a household name in America. Everybody knew who Donald Trump was. Those were his chips. So if you're going to bypass the normal system, you have to bring something to the table that helps you compete with those who've already served and may have prominence.
So you've given this lecture to some people who are overly ambitious and say, hey, you might want to run for something smaller.
Okay. I get an email every week from somebody who says, I want to run for president. And I got to tell them, you're not going to be president. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Probably ever for you. I had to let them down easy. But yeah, I got to say that to people sometimes.
No, I'm sorry.
Do you give them their options? Do you give them their options? Like, hey, this may be a better fit for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, if they don't listen to you, send them to Rep My Block. We'll take everything.
Okay.
Mostly they don't.
I have a question from a slightly different angle of view. Now, the thing is that I'm an interest group, don't have a lot of money, to tell you the truth. And, I'm actually, the thing is that if we had a civil rights movement with no black people would realize this was weird. A women's suffrage movement with no women involved, it would be weird. I'm actually a war victim, but, the thing is that the anti-war movement has no war victims. So, because my issue doesn't matter, I teamed up with a coalition of people like the longest wrongfully incarcerated man in New York State history, the disabled, the second largest minority voting bloc in the nation. And the thing is that we haven't. I know, like these candidates, right? You talked about their message being very important, right? The kind of foundation. And I know you're a communications expert. I think your presentation today is fantastic. But once again, as an interest group, I don't really have a lot of money that I can give the candidate, but I'm trying to insert my own issues and have the candidates kind of pick them up for their campaign. So as someone who's an outside kind of interest group without having the money to really convince the candidate, what can I do to have the candidate pick up my issue and make that part of their, because if they have too many talking points on their platform, then people can't handle complexity. You know what I'm talking about?
Not sure how to answer the question. You're trying to get a candidate to endorse your cause.
Yeah.
All right.
What's the best thing that I could do to maybe help make that happen?
And you got no money to give them.
I might be able to try to fundraise, but it's not been great. I gotta tell you the truth, man. It's
All
not
right.
great.
All right. So here's all right. So I'm not going to mention the name, but I saw a campaign last year where a candidate for U.S. Senate got a visit from lobbyists for the crypto industry. And they said, we would like you to say nice things about crypto, and we would like your promise that you're not going to stand in the way of deregulation of crypto. That candidate says, you got it. Crypto funneled millions of dollars into his campaign. Crypto people. That's all they wanted to hear. That's pretty crass. But it happened. All right. Now, let's suppose the crypto people did not have millions of dollars to give him, but crypto people had a big email list or a lot of crypto investors that they might have sent to those crypto holders and say, XYZ candidate is good for our industry, is going to make it easier for you to trade on crypto. And we suggest that you send him $15 or $20 as soon as you can to help him in his campaign. So what crypto may not have been able to give in money, they could turn other people to make small contributions or asking people in that candidate state to vote for him. That's also something an interest group can do.
Okay.
So think about your following, which anybody can go to social media and create a following now.
Okay, so here's a quick question. I don't know the legality of this, but like I said, I am working with historical people, like the longest wrongfully incarcerated man in New York State history. And the thing is that, is it possible for us, and the disabled, is it possible for us to maybe put together like a blanket thing and then maybe sell it as a package? Because the thing is that I'm trying to fundraise for our own stuff. And, I think that a lot of times the candidates take us for granted. Maybe if they bought it, they would put us in more value. I don't know. Like, I'm not really crazy about monetizing this, but it's really such a struggle to really get them to take us. And I know we're competing with astroturfing, we're competing with crypto and all these other $1 million industries that really force their way to the table. All we have is our story. We don't really have money, real support. We have our narrative. That's about it.
Right. The other thing that you might be able to do is supply some reliable volunteers for them.
Okay.
Especially in local races.
All right.
It is hard to get people to go get signatures for you. It is hard to get people, especially in New York City, to get into it.
Someone who's been a worker and doing that for a while too, though, just so you know, a lot of the volunteers screw up and they don't they're not reliable, and they're signatures don't validate the way sometimes the professionals do. So it's sometimes volunteers are varying quality. So you're not wrong. I
Yeah,
appreciate
I know.
that. Thank you. Okay,
There,
we're working on it.
there's an art to attracting volunteers, and then an even bigger art to keep them coming back.
I like that.
Yeah. So basically, it's this: your volunteers have to have a good time. And if they don't have a good time, they're not coming back. And whatever you ask them to do, it's something that they like to do, because otherwise they won't come back. So that's a whole nother meeting about how to keep a volunteer force happy. I'm going to have to go shortly. But before I do, are there any other questions here?
Yeah, I got more, but Ralph, I see your hand raised. Go ahead, Ralph.
Ralph,
before you go, I do want you to also I didn't even have you start, but just I think your answers and your presentation just showed your expertise. But maybe you could share with us some of the previous work you've done, and also how people can contact you, and a little bit more about your services.
Okay, I put my email in the chat box.
Okay.
All right. So in a nutshell, I'm one of the luckiest people you will ever meet, because I discovered my passion when I was 17 years old. I discovered what I love to do. And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't worked a day since. When the fact of the matter is, I routinely work 7 days a week, 80 hours a week or more. So what happened was, I grew up on a farm in Indiana. My father was a state legislator. My first door-to-door activity for him took place when I was 6 years old after school. I knocked on doors from him. I got bitten by a political bug. My father was military. He expected me to be very well read. And I became an absolute consumer of newspaper opinion pages when I was 13. And I knew more about politics than anybody other than my father in Blackford County by the time I was 17. That was my start. I love this stuff. I have worked in politics my entire life. There isn't anything I have not done or don't know how to do. And because I am a sponge for all things politics, of course, I keep up with the technology, because to me, we have the best form of government known to humankind. It's called democracy. And there's always going to be fierce competition in the marketplace of ideas on how to make our system of government better, and how to better provide for people who get slapped by the backhand of life. And to me, it's just fascinating business. So yeah, I started out low person on a totem pole right out of graduate school. And I was involved with 7 or 8 statewide races that first year. I then became a partner in a firm. And after 5 or 6 years, I went out on my own, which is typically the way things work. My secret is I had really wonderful mentors. Otherwise, I'd have been bankrupt at some point. Mentors that kept me out of trouble, stopped me from doing stupid things. Because every day I wake up, I'm smarter and better informed than the day I was before. I had the benefit of people who kept me out of trouble. So I'd say to anybody who wants to get into political consulting, your key thing is find a mentor that believes in you and is willing to look over your shoulder during your early years so that you do not stumble.
Amazing. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the future? I'm sorry. Susan had a question. I want to make sure she gets her question name. Go ahead, Susan. You had something you wanted to mention with it? Thank you so much for that.
About privacy. So there's all this information out there about all of us now. And isn't it in our Constitution to the right to have privacy? And doesn't some of this stuff sort of cross that boundary?
Yeah. Yeah. And to some extent, you still have it. Nobody can walk through your front door absent your permission and invade your privacy, at least in theory. That you have privacy behind. However, this is what's happened through the years. This data that L2 appends to voter files, most of it came from people who voluntarily provided it to somebody. So how do they know the credit scores of people on a voter list? It's because people applied for credit cards and banks sold that information to third parties. They know my credit score on L2. I looked it up. They know my income. They know my education level. Now, most of that information I have probably volunteered, except my credit score. Somebody else determines that. But I get a credit rating of some kind by banks or what have you. We all do. And those banks report that credit rating to third-party vendors in other credit card companies so they know whether you're a worthy credit card holder or not. So we have voluntarily provided it to these social media companies that have collected it. This is how Zuckerberg got rich. It's what people volunteered on Facebook to make it. So perhaps there should be better controls on how the social media companies and the tech companies better control on what they can do with that data. There are now firms in the country, I see them advertised on YouTube. It said, you want to erase anything and everything about you that's floating around in the atmosphere? Here, you can hire our company and we'll erase you. No information, including your address. I went looking for something on a voter file not long ago about certain public officials in New Mexico. And I noticed that even on L2, they had asked that their home address not be listed. Why? They're afraid of being doxxed or shot because they are controversial and they make difficult decisions, and that pisses people off. So I think this whole privacy thing has become muddled. And at some point going forward, every day we're waking up now and finding that the government knows more about us than we thought the government should know. Somebody's going to draw a line in the sand and say, you got to stop this.
I just want to interrupt, just say that I did hear my name and I was muted. I think DJ keeps muting me. I'm outside. Maybe I'm making a little noise. But I do have a question too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jay, how did you move to New York then? I'm just curious. What made you come? Yeah, because it's not, I'm going to mute myself, but go ahead.
Right. I won a speech contest when I was 17, and the reward was a week-long trip to New York City. They thought that speech contest was a really big deal, so that was the reward, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah, I saw that on your LinkedIn. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the minute my feet hit the ground at Union Square. I just looked up and said, I want to live here.
I agree with you. Cool.
Thank you. I do have another question. Yeah. So the thing is that sometimes people are, they have a consultant that they're using, and they want to know if is the consultant actually doing a good job. So they want to be able to see the results. So sometimes you see these polls, and sometimes the polls are predictive, like they seem to pretty spot on, and then sometimes the polls are off, right? So how can the person who's buying consultant services, how can they feel like they know like what they're paying for is working?
That begins early on in the relationship. The candidate has to have a chemistry with a consultant. Why? Because they're putting their career into the hands of a consultant who may have to make really critical decisions when the candidate is not able to make them. There's a lot at stake in the relationship between candidate and consultant. Candidate has to trust the wisdom, as you would a doctor who's about to cut your chest open and replace your heart. You're not in a position to tell that doctor how to do his job. You got to trust the doctor. And it's the same thing with consultants and candidates. And if you got questions about your doctor's integrity or character or skills, you shouldn't be hiring that doctor to do it. So that's one way. Now I have another, and I've seen this happen. In fact, it's my role in one particular campaign I'm involved with. I'm not involved in the day-to-day, but I have 2 calls a week with the candidate and the campaign manager and their team. They tell me everything they're doing, and they ask my opinion. And I will come back to them and say, this mail piece needs to be changed. This TV ad needs to be rewritten. You don't have your Facebook ad set up properly. In other words, I'm there kind of as a check on what they are doing to help them keep their vendors in line. I do play that role in a campaign I'm involved with. I've also been the lead consultant on other campaigns and learned that they also had someone looking at my stuff, just as a check. Now, it's a luxury to be able to afford someone like that, but it happens all the time. So I'd say it comes down to a matter of trust. You can also talk to other consultants, but usually if your consultant is doing something really silly, your own friends are going to say, what are you up to with this stuff? It's not making any sense.
Okay.
I had
Grace,
a
you
question.
Go ahead, Grace.
Yeah. Well, my question is, the political arena, if you will, is basically male dominated. Now, I ran for Bronxborough president last year, and I don't think I did too bad. I didn't have all those things in place like you said, although next time for sure. I'm a little bit up in age, and I'm a female, and I get treated a different way than men do. What do you say about someone like me I'm pushing 70 and considering running again in 2026, just to give pushback to the Democrat Party? And and I'm a community advocate. I've been doing things for a long time. I've always been behind the scenes, though. I only started to come out in front of the scenes in the last couple of years. I'm more of on the back end, like to help people and do things in the background. Never wanted to have the spotlight on me, but here we are, and yeah, it's a hard consideration. How does someone like me? Where is there help for someone like me to help navigate this male-dominated field that just really doesn't treat women well at all?
Okay.
unless you got
Ways,
some big bucks behind you like that. Okay, I'm grassroots.
right.
You know, Dion knows me. Theo knows me. DJ knows me. So I have that on top of everything else. I have that to deal with. What do you suggest I do?
Well, number one is go to your natural base, which might be female. And I guarantee if you stand in front of a group of females and you say, we need to dilute some of the testosterone in our political establishment because all these men have really screwed up our country. And you probably get a lot of applause.
Well, I
You
don't
get
want
in,
to. I'm not anti-man. Men are wonderful creatures. I love men,
right.
and I don't want to come off sounding like I'm a feminist because I'm not.
Mhm.
I believe in the traditional roles of men and women, and so I don't want to. I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I don't want to think something that I'm not because I basically say. I say what I say. I basically don't have much of a filter, right, Dion? Um, no, I don't because listen, you're like I'm at a certain age where, right, Theo, that I don't give a rat's behind. You know, it doesn't. I have to be. I have to say the truth according to the truth.
Yeah.
What I see, what I know. I've been around a long time. I've been in politics a long time as far as helping people and doing things in the political arena. And I just know what I know.
Yeah.
And just like you know what you know, you've been doing it since you're 17. I got a late start.
All right.
So,
So I'm
so,
gonna,
so I
well,
need, uh, the point is, should I even bother at this age that
of
I'm
course,
at? Because,
but here's what you look for. Now, I have been privileged to have helped a lot of women win elections. And I've dealt with this male stuff a lot because they run into a brick wall, you know, political establishment and everything else, because it is male dominated.
Mhm.
And they have to behave in a certain way that's a little bit different. But I would say I credit their success to the sharpness of their message. They would latch on to something that voters wanted. And even voters who were skeptical, perhaps, of voting for a woman, may have looked at their message and say, yeah, she's a woman, but I want what she's talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
let me
Go ahead. I'm
let me
sorry.
compare this to Trump. Though a male, despite all his flaws, he won an election in 2016. Why did the country overlook his flaws and vote for him anyway?
Messaging.
He was
Mhm.
offering something to voters that they wanted that they were not going to get from Hillary Clinton.
That's right.
Right.
And right. And I was one of his volunteers down at Trump Tower. So
Okay. All right.
But he won against two women. Let's not forget, he won against two women.
Right.
well,
But
let's not add Kamala into that. She really
And
wasn't.
he lost against Joe, so he lost against the man, but won against the woman.
okay. But you have two new female governors in New Jersey and Virginia. What
Yeah,
was their secret? They offered voters something that they wanted that they could not get from the men who ran against them. They're in power now. They'll probably make really good governors.
Okay. Well, I have one more. How do I deal with the because I know things always get back to me. Okay.
Mhm.
So I know that there are people in one of the parties that endorsed me that talked behind my back and voted for the other candidate, even though it was the Democrat Party, and they weren't Democrats. The Republicans voting for the Democrat. So how do I route these people out, or how do I deal with what do you call I don't know, the two-facedness of these women? And again, it's women, but women are great at backstabbing. Okay, it's true. It's a fact. That's one thing that women do well. They can backstab you to cows come home.
Mhm.
And this basically, I was backstabbed, and they smile in your face and they stab you in the back. How do I deal with issues like that, or just not bother with them, because these are people that had influence?
Okay. I'd say trust but verify. Look, that goes on all the time in politics. Your objective here is to make as many friends as you can, but never be more dependent on any one particular ally than you have to be,
Mhm.
because there are people in politics that will betray you.
Yes.
It is very competitive. As one of my mentors once said, if you're looking for saints, Jay, you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
There are no saints in politics.
Yes, that's true.
Right. I am at my limit here.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Going to have to go, but I thank you all for your time, and I hope you all got something out of what I shared today.
Definitely.
Jay, you confirm a lot of things, so thank you very much.
Look out for our emails.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you
and
much.
and Grace, you are a conservative feminist. You are a feminist. You
Okay.
don't sell yourself short.
Well,
Thanks.
I'm basically Donald Trump in a dress.
That's okay. That's feminism.
Okay. Thanks again, Jay. You were amazing. I'm going to get to my other consultant that I also have on board. We're supposed to have also Brett, who's running for governor in Wisconsin, which is interesting. I don't know how much he can do this, but yeah, once again, Jay is an amazing force. The next consultant that I actually had on was also Dion, who's actually working with me locally, and he's such a dependable guy. For so many things, I just find him also a great statesman. Once again, hats off to Jay. That was an amazing presentation. I was so lucky to be there.
Thank you so much.
Well, Dion's the superstar too. Some of you guys already know him, but Dion, why don't you go ahead do your presentation? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Brian probably has less time than me, so I'll let Brian go first, I guess.
Okay, yeah, Brian was an opening speaker. Yeah, so go ahead, Brian. You have your presentation. Go ahead. Brian, are you there?
Oh.
Okay, go ahead, Dion. Just do your thing.
Hi, everybody. That was a great presentation. Thank you, Ed, and everybody here that's helped me along the way. Susan, Ralph, Theo, Grace, and I think that's it. Who I know here. Let me see. Anybody else I know here today? No. But yes, I'm Dion. I'm a district leader with the Conservative Party here in New York State. I'm a consultant. I'm a former candidate. And the flyer said Blexit, New York, but not an organization. It's called TPUSA Rise, which is the largest minority conservative organization in the country, with chapters in all 50 states and DC, and over 20 HBCU Black college campuses. So today, as a consultant, I just want to introduce you guys to what I've done and why I've done this and why I left the Democratic paradise, heaven. Who doesn't do that? So I was a Democrat since 18 onward, and I was a part of the first student government in America, the City College of New York, as vice president. But I didn't know this was my niche. And then a friend of mine who was in student government worked for the Assembly, and then he asked me to join him with some others in the New York State Young Democrats Caucus Color. Then I became the chair of that. I became a county committeeman. Thanks to Theo Chino, I was the only county committeeman of the 79th Assembly District because I did my positions myself. Didn't rely on the Democratic Party, so that made me a big threat and problem, of course. I also used to work for the New York State Assembly for Michael Blake, who's running for Congress. So when he left, I ran for his spot in the Assembly. So that's a part of my little resume as well. After I ran for office, got beat up a few times, but rewind, I helped my friend run for office years ago in 2008. and a special election against Vanessa Gibson. So he was new, but back then, the Democratic Party locked up all the party lines so nobody could run a special election, except for sleep in peace Bill Newmark of the Bronx Conservative Party, who gave Joel Ray Rivera his first chance. And we learned the process then. We got beat up in 2008, not beat up physically, but you know what I mean? When you're running for office, you get beat up a few times. So when I ran, I lost. I ran for state senate, a little bit knocked off the ballot, and that kind of stuff, but thanks to conservative parties, always helped me along the way. So eventually in 2023, I left the Democratic Party and I joined the Conservative Party because they announced they were closing 7 Catholic schools in the Bronx. And one of them was my Catholic school in the South Bronx, St. Angela. And of course, I knew they must destroy education to keep us so poor, dependent, dumb here in the Bronx. I became a political consultant in 2021, realizing, hey, you know, I'm really working hard, but I need to get compensated. I love what I do, like the previous speaker said. I'm like, wow, this is my niche in life, this stuff, helping people and resources. But I see the problem, which is the elected official. And I was a part of a lot of Black civic groups that drank the Kool-Aid, promoted the Kool-Aid, and sold the Kool-Aid, like the NAACP, the Urban League, and some other Black organizations. But Blexit, thanks to the 2021 lockdown, I was activated as a leader with that to actually come on this side of the fence more so. I didn't vote for Trump the first 2 times because he's a German like me. I voted Libertarian. Larry Sharpe was an inspiration of mine in New York. I helped start the Bronx Libertarian chapter a few years ago. And as a consultant, I helped run city council candidates, people for judge. One judge I helped get elected was Rena Powell, no relation here in the Bronx. I've learned how to run judges thanks to Theo and some others, GJL, met along the way. I've learned the political process, the bylaws, the New York State Constitution, and some other things that you need to know on paper. Let's see. Some of my claims to fame is with the Conservative Party with the Bronx. Thanks to a primary in 2023, I was able to re-register over 100 people into the Conservative Party by going to the projects and beyond and showing them question 14 of the voter registration form and explaining to them door to door that, hey, you can leave the Democratic Party. You don't have to be Black and be a Democrat. You can update your voter registration form. We have 4 political parties. Here's the third party, Conservative Party. As a result of my efforts in 2023, that early spring for a client of mine, it snowballed throughout the year, and all the votes on the Conservative Party line in November of 2023, actually through cross-party endorsement and fusion voting, was able to push the Republican over the top to win. Historic win in the Bronx. First Republican city council person in over 40 years, thanks to our efforts here with the Conservative Party. So that's one claim to fame of mine. And then my most recent biggest accomplishment that's on my resume is that I was the National African American Affairs Director for the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. PAC, American Values 2024, when he ran for president. With that, I was very proud to accomplish because I worked so hard with the medical freedom movement with here in New York, with the Children's Health Defense, Teachers for Choice, and some others fighting the vaccine mandates and workers who were fired for not taking the vaccine in 2021. So I got on their radar upstairs, and they tapped me for that as well. So right now, as a political consultant, one of my most recent colleagues I added to my network, because I always offer my candidates access to my black book, quote unquote, is our guy Ralph, who was on, and he's another computer tech guy. Theo Sheenla's one. I have some other computer tech guys that want to give access to voter data, and that's a very good foundation to run for office, voter data. Now, for me, I don't have a nice presentation like the previous gentleman, but I emailed him though, in which I give my clients the inverted pyramid for running for office, the poor man's campaign. And what is that pyramid? Normally, people run number one, ideology. Oh wow, we got to save the city from whatchamacallit, criminal justice. And then number 2, they go popularity. Oh, everybody knows me. It's time for office. Number 3, infrastructure. All right, we got to get them together and do these wonderful things and learn the hard way. And then number 4, they realize near the end they need money, so raising money. So I try to invert the pyramid for them and say, no, you got to start off trying to raise a lot of money. Some of the things the gentleman before me put in his presentation to raise money is very key. And I said, number 2, and in tandem, you got to consistently build your infrastructure with professionals, not just your friends, family, and people who push you over to run for office, but professionals, and discern what that is. Then number 3, you have to go with popularity. Talk to people and ask them what their issues are and their concerns. And then number 4, in tandem, you create the ideology about what they want and their needs and things of that nature. So that's my little thing. But my litmus test for my clients, because I do give a lot of free advice, number 1, as long as you feed me, I will talk. It will work for food. That's me. So I love my community. And if you're about the work, I choose my clients carefully because there are a lot of snakes here that would just abuse someone like me to do petitions and grunt work. But it's more to me than that as a strategist. And number 2, my litmus test for clients, if they're running the poor man's campaign, I tell them, listen, my test for you is to print out your phone book. Print out all your social media contacts because you have a right to access the information, and you call and contact everybody on your Excel spreadsheet, and you raise $5 by $10, and also ask them if they can volunteer or if they have a professional skill set like a lawyer or a printing company to give you some in-kind contributions to be part of the effort. So that's basically my 5-minute spiel. I know I probably went over, Ed, and that's me, Dion Powell at NY Consultant, singular, not plural, Dion at nyconsultant.us. So hopefully you'll share the word with me and give me some clients or whatever the case may be. But like the gentleman for me again, I don't know about him, but I'm a Christian. So I will hear you out and I will give you my free advice if you feed me, or, just give me some feedback. If I see that you're about the work and you have the heart for the industry and the people, just like Grace, right there. And that's it.
Yeah, my personal endorsement, Dion. You've been great for everything local, and you're very knowledgeable in many fields of running for office. Now, actually, this today was really planned to really have the community, right? And really, I wanted, was it Jay, by kind of like limiting his time, kind of took over the whole thing. But as the consultant yourself, you could also, right, have chipped in with answers as well too. So it was supposed to be really both of you guys answering everybody's questions about, how, right, they want to run for office. And now it's just, if you guys have any questions for, I know, or sometimes you guys can answer these questions yourselves. Like Jeff Young, once again, has experience running in many different parties, suing the party leadership we're trying to keep them out. The same struggles that you guys are going through. Theo has also, I think Dion's also successfully knocked SBI off the ballot. That was amazing with the Working Families ballot. So these people do know what they're doing, just as a network. So go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, I heard my name, so in the debate, if my name is, I get to respond, right, Dion?
Sure.
I was listening. It's just the internet's going in and out here, and I did hear you, and I do love what you said. So I think some of those things you said can be helped by tools too, to get from the contact. We can't expect people to go to their contact list and filter it themselves and all that stuff. We could help them do it. So I'd love to help with that. And yeah, and thank you, all of you, for all that you do.
Yes, Ralph. And Ralph was a colleague I met along the way that, when you work certain campaigns in your streets, doing all this work, you meet a lot of great people and some evil people as well. So be discerning. And Ralph is one of those colleagues I met on the campaign trail. I don't know if he wants me to disclose it, but he was a very great resource. I worked very well with him behind the scenes. We had the same network behind the scenes like Theo, and I knew Ralph was about the work. So yes, that's somebody that I will throw work to. And hopefully if anybody else is consultant here or operative, throw work to each other as colleagues. We have to build each other up, and it has to be lucrative because we can't save the world if we all have a personal challenge behind the scenes. And my great inspiration is election lawyer that I have in my toolkit. There's less than 8 of them, 10 of them, but his name is Aaron Fallenhauer, and I always use him as the best example as an election lawyer. He ran for mayor, got beat up, and so behind the scenes, he realized, wow, there's only 8 election lawyers here in New York State, and even Barack Obama's attorneys get laughed out of the Board of Elections, get knocked off the ballot if they ever do. So Aaron actually said, you know what? I'm going to corner the market and be electionlawyer.com and get the brand. So Aaron gave up running for office. He's just an election lawyer, just making some good buku money, as we say. But yeah, man, that's why being political consultant is very key. But also as why, like the gentleman before me said, it's good to give back to certain small candidates with certain pieces of advice and resources, because they do have the heart for the community at hand. And sometimes they may not have the means, or you could tell them to their face, you're going to lose, but they still want to be a dog in the fight on either the third party or try to take on the Democratic machine as a Democrat and try to reform. So that's always a good way to give back.
Also, I just wanted to point you guys to one thing over here. Now, the thing is that it's sharing my screen right now. I'm going to go to this over here. I'll go to that. Okay. Yeah, here we are. Okay, if I go down here, I go into the website over here. And then over here, you could see that I have something called Activist Network Directory. And once I'm in here, actually, this is something that, let me see if I can make this bigger over here. Okay, you see it says electioneering, and this is actually a tool that was actually shown to me by Dion Powell over there. This is an example of his great knowledge right here. This is a map that shows me how people voted in prior year's elections. And therefore, I could see right down to like almost a block level, right? Oh, this block over here was voting X amount percentage Republican versus Democrat. So I could really more intelligently, decide where I'm going to drop my people. There's other tools that I have like this on my, is this called electioneering section. There's also, I want to point the work of Ralph Yazzo over there, and he's got something called Title Force, where you can like look up your opponents, like how they got where they got their campaign donations from, and how they're spending their money. So if you want to bring that up as an issue, yeah. I think also, Theo likes to work on those kinds of things as well. So just want to point out this tool for y'all, and feel free to share.
Where do we get that? Where do we get that? DJ?
DJL7.com. Just go to
Say
DJL7.
again?
Okay, you see on the screen right there, right? You see how it says.
No, it's hard to see.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay, just go to my
let me
website.
See. What?
Okay, you see my website right there?
The DJL7, is it .com, .org, .net?
.com.
.com, okay.
Yeah. So you go here and go into the website. And there's other resources that I have as well, too. The Activist Network Directory.
And I just want to point out, DJ, for the campaign stuff, you can literally share any contribution. So you can send the link to anyone so that you don't have to go into the New York State one and you have to tell them to click here and click here and click there. Literally, you can send the link and it'll send them the exact contribution sorted by size, by name. It's like a one-stop shop for New York City and New York State. So
yeah, so like if FEC, right? You can also go to FEC, but this is actually his tool right here. I'm sharing it on the screen. He does have these different, and if you need to contact Ralph, right, you could shout out your information. But once again, his links to his stuff is actually linked through my website. So people on my team are working on these things with different independent, solutions, and I do encourage people to have contingencies. But I do try to list them. So these are just some different tools I have made available for y'all. So y'all can take on the fight. Go ahead, guys. You got this. All right, that's basically sorry. All right, yeah. So that's basically
and give feedback too. If you have any feedback, give feedback to DJ or me or Dion or Teo or whoever.
Yeah, you were kind of fast there, brother. I'm on the website real time. So what tabs are these?
Just go to the far right. It says Activist Network Resources after you go into the website.
Okay, yeah, because I have the screen up next to me. Okay, yeah.
And I have different. For my New York City fellows, I actually have hidden links on my special NYCStreetArtist.com. That's separate, but there's a bunch of different resources that you could use, like so also how to get access to like court documents, stuff like that, and other cool links that are just handy for activists. So, yeah. All right, send me, guys, if you find good resources, to send them my way. And then I can help everybody in our network, right, improve. Dion has shared his email in the chat. I'll put that on the screen right there. All right, and once again, I know we have a bunch of, some of them are actually in party leadership, right, with the Socialist Conservative Party. But do you guys have any other questions that you guys have? This is, sometimes I know that consultants can actually sabotage a campaign, right? Because you can't buy loyalty, you can't buy integrity. So if I wanted to, on the map, right, send someone to a district where it's 85% opposition instead of 55% opposition, I can waste their resources by, spending it, spending the resources in not a very intelligent or in a counterproductive way, actually, right? Kind of wasting. So, all right, Ralph
also,
has shared his email. Go ahead.
Sorry, I added my email to the chat list too.
Okay. So, any other questions about campaigning, or just different things that they might tell you?
So, Dion, what is really the conservative movement? Tell us more about what that means for you, for your group.
Okay, well, number one, we're actually trying to, thanks to us, give people more options, like disgruntled Republicans, disgruntled Democrats, independents and beyond, and other third parties who have become attacked and destroyed, like the Libertarians don't have a party line, thanks to King Cuomo II and some others. So we try to make sure we endorse both political party candidates to try to push them over the top. A lot of people don't know, Grace, that, Pat gave me the packet, that we're the reason why Governor Pataki was first elected, because everybody voted on the third party, conservative party line, and that's what pushed Governor Pataki as the first, not the first, but as a Republican governor of New York State. So last year we had a candidate for city council, Democrat Simcha Felder, conservative Democrat. Simcha Felder is from the Orthodox Jewish community, and he's always been third party.
Who?
Simcha Felder. Simcha Felder is a Democrat, a conservative Democrat in Brooklyn.
And he was on the Conservative Party line?
And the Democratic Party line, and he won. Because Simcha Felder remember when New York State was shut down because the Jeffrey Klein, I think it was, and the IDC and these characters. Well, Simcha Felder, when they had a small majority in state senate, he caucused with the Republicans, so he was a swing vote. So we try to go with people that would be a swing vote, like Simcha Felder, and also Republicans too, who need help, that are horrible, no offense to them, because I shouldn't be talking bad about them, per my chairman, reaching people, and then they come to us as a conservative party. It's like, you know what? I can't vote for Republican because I am black and the stigma, but I will vote conservative because I am a part of the clergy, and Democrats are going too crazy right now. And Dion, I will hold my nose and vote conservative. So we're that kind of outreach.
Well, but the thing is, there is also a value system. You have a value system, which, for example, I don't agree, but you do have your.
You're an atheist. You're an atheist. You're an atheist. You're an atheist. You would lose. You're atheist.
But that's what is important also, is to have some sort of value system that you believe, and you have a party that is around that, which is technically what it should be, where you have values and you have a voice, and you need to, in a democracy, you need to have that voice.
Yeah, so Susan, yes, that Steele hit it on the head there. The value system was really attracts people, especially legal immigrants and people who have migrated here or immigrated here. I shouldn't use that word, migrant. And they were like, yeah, after reading up on the Democratic Party, see what's going on, this is not for me. And then you have some other people that actually, thanks to my courage and leadership and Grace's courage and leadership by example, say, you know what, it's okay to leave the Democratic Party. We don't have to feel stuck. And we can leave on paper, take some getting used to. And the faith-based community loves us, even though they're in bed with the Democrats with the 501c3 and the free goodies for their pantry, etc. But yeah, they know that we're standing on something morally that's right. So sometimes people come at us, a little sideways, but then when we talk about, well, look at what they're doing with abortion up to 9 months. Look at what they're doing with the schools, and the transgender stuff and blah, blah. And they said, you know what, you're right. We're not with this boys and girls sports, and we're not voting Republican because we're in the Bronx and, all these stigmas, but we will vote conservative, And sometimes we use it as a guilt and shame mechanism for the clergy, because they do throw free clergy breakfast at them. But the faith-based community, without leadership by example, there's a lot of people over, Susan. Leave it alone.
But so we are on the other side. I am on the other side, and I am the anti-conservative candidate. But obviously, Dion and I can talk and discuss and agree that because we have a different set of beliefs, we be able to. It is for the voter to decide what they believe at the end of the day, not for Dion and I to fight to deny the voter to express their voice and their belief system.
So values, I would say, is number one. But number two, the Conservative Party, like the Libertarians and some others, they will educate you. They can be the biggest racists with a forked tongue they want, but they will educate you as to, policy and the rules and the bylaws and the Constitution and these wonderful things where you can't refute. The Democrats will only play off your emotions. And if you ask the Democratic Party,
or the Republican,
yes,
the same.
They control
Yes.
information. And one big word as a black man I'm very big on is access. They control those two things. If you
Yes.
ask any major party, county or otherwise, can I see your bylaws? They will make sure you're immediately blacklisted. You see what I'm saying? Little nuances like that
Yeah.
are very important. And thanks to Theo, we fought very hard to get access to the Democratic Party county bylaws. Because being part of student government, the first student government, I must say, the bylaws by law are something that's a tool that you should have access to. And if any, go ahead.
No, remember, we put them on Rep My Blog. Suddenly the party started putting them on their own website. So
Right, yeah.
when
So this,
we started putting them publicly, then they realized, wait a minute, we did. And
right,
same for the Republican. We did the same on the Republican side.
yeah, and the Freedom of Information Act, Susan, which I know you're big on, you know, we made sure we learned people about that process, and New York de jure assembly with them actually going after them with their petitioning and their subpoenas, whatever it is. But yes, these are some of the things that force their hands. Like Theo forced their hand, and now they have to be overly transparent with their public databases on their website and their campaign finance. And then Grace forces their hand. She may make one issue in the Bronx that the Democrats have to take on because she made so much noise and brought so much attention to upzoning or the prison, the Rikers Island expansion, Jacoby Hospital. Like, all right, I'm gonna still grace this idea and make it mine, but they know it's the right thing to do, and that's why running for office is so important. Like those issues, you wake people up. I was like, wow, you know, having Rikers Island at this hospital with all these 4 schools around it may not be a good idea. You know.
I just
go ahead.
Can I? Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Who is it?
Ralph, go ahead. You first.
Oh, I just wanted to say, along with the blacklist, we have to keep in mind that they control all the patronage system too. So it's not just you get blacklisted from some mailing list, you get blacklisted from everything. You get blacklisted from the nonprofits, you get blacklisted from everything. It's money, they control everything. Just like someone said, the New York Constitution sets the 2 major parties, the 2 the ones that get the most votes as the controlling of the Board of Elections. So people like Frank Sedio is a commissioner of the Board of Elections. It's disgraceful, it's disgusting, and until we change that, we got to get rid of that part of the Constitution.
Ralph, the thing is, Ralph, no matter where you go in the world, patronage, if you are part of a political party, patronage come with it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a political party. So in a way, we get mad at Keith Wright for saying it. But the moment the conservatives get the power, they get elected, they will do the same thing. Patronage.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not denying.
Because you are working to get elected as mayor. So who is the first? If you get elected as a conservative, within the group of conservative around you, who are you going to appoint? You are going to appoint all your conservative friends. And same for me for the socialist.
I agree, but I just want to point out that we should recognize it, because some people, I say the word patronage and they say, what does that mean? So
Well,
yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Taylor. Yeah.
I have to disagree. I have to disagree with that, because had I been elected, I know I have many people that are on all sides. They're Democrat, Republican, conservative, independent, would have been appointed at some level.
God bless you.
My administration, because they're not your typical Democrat, Republican type people. They are grassroots community people. See, when you take the politics, the political acronyms all out of there, we're all the same. We're all grassroots community people who are looking to better our community so that things are more even instead of this nonsense that we have going.
But they're going to blacklist you first, Grace.
Grace, the point I'm trying to make, because Ralph and I had this discussion, is the fact that Ralph gets mad at the system. And I want to say the system is...
I am not mad, Theo. Please don't put words in my mouth. I don't put words in your mouth. Okay, I am pointing out that we need to recognize the system. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the thing is I don't want to put word, but it is in a way, you and I talk a lot. But the patronage thing will never go away because it hasn't gone away in any country around the world. The moment you put human together, we get around to our friend first, and the friends are the people who get us elected. And what gets our friend is our value system in a way. And I don't expect to be part of a Dion administration if he wins.
You know,
I
actually,
will
just
have
to,
his
You
ear.
would have been part of
just as
mine,
well.
Theo.
He still pick up his phone, but if
Theo,
you
you
hear me
would've-
disagree with him.
Okay, I just want to jump
Theo,
in
you
front
would
for
have
my.
been
Yeah,
on mine, Theo.
I just want to
I
jump
would
in
have
front
had
right.
you on
Yeah.
mine.
I just want to jump in front of for my friend right quick, Grace. Just so you know, who actually came out to my MLK day at National Action Network. Now the thing is that within my clique right here, and I really once again, Jeff, one of my favorite candidates of all time, right? Great to work with you, and Susan is also a candidate of the year, just so you know, and the Unified Platform, and it basically underwrote today's program, which I really appreciate. But once again, what we're really looking for, though, even though I appreciate your fight, and you do have that podium, like Jay said earlier, but Grace is really a district leader, right, and really establishing that local control and talking to her local, right, people that she knocks on the doors. She knows the people that's actually registered to vote in her neighborhood, and having those small winnable victories and putting you into place. And if she can control her election district, and I control my election district, and I know you guys want that big podium, I'm not mad at that, but also control your election district. Then we can get together and we can pool I got my district, I get your district, and we can make our own little, agreements and get our things passed. The Manhattan, control of the Manhattan Democrat Party was decided by 8 votes, and I was there. And I screamed and left because Theo got beat up in that election. But, I was part of that. So just once again, right, Grace is a prime example. And one of the things that, honestly, I hope everybody here really aspires to. Everybody wants to do this, do that, right, be on the big stage. Me too. But as a district leader, I want y'all to be district leaders, dead serious, please. That's what for me, that's a central part of the DGL7 vision right here for change. It's on by the way, it's on the What's Next part of the Unified Platform, USA.com. It says What's Next, and it talks about this plan precisely. I don't know if you got to see that. Last thing is, I know Elena's also on county committee, right? We want to become district leaders, but we also want to share nationwide. There's certain things that have happened, such as I think that in the Democrats, they're allowed to film their county committee meeting, but our Republicans, we're not allowed to film. In Queens, we're not allowed to film the county committee meeting. You guys have access to the bylaws. We don't have the publicly published bylaws. So the thing is that in different areas of the country, such as West Virginia, where Susan is, or Kentucky, where Jeff Young is, there's different things going on in the county committee there, they're stifling the grassroots from having bylaws be public, from having able to record county committee meetings. And I'd like to standardize as a grassroots movement things to help, or limiting proxy voting. That's huge, right? That's the worst of all the cooked up things that they do. The proxy voting is the worst. If we can limit that, then we can start to regain control on a grassroots level.
Well, Jeff and Susan, if you're willing to fight your own Democrat and Republican parties, Rep My Block is here to help you in a way keep the information in a way standardized, and then DJL after that publicize it loudly. But someone has to walk into the Republican office and say, I want the bylaws. And same in Arkansas. So Jeff and Susan, if you're ready to ruckus your party, you know where to go.
Well, quick question.
Well, I'm actually more concerned with what's in the New York state constitution about the Democrats and Republicans.
Oh, it is in every constitution.
Is
Don't
it-
get me wrong. It is in every state constitution.
Well-
It is not written Republican and Democrat. It's written the party that get the most vote and the one who get the second most vote will organize, count, and manage the election.
Theo,
That's
Theo,
how it is.
No, does it
Theo, if
say
I-
that
if-
really?
Yes, Article 2,
No.
2, Section 8. You can read it. It's in plain English.
Theo, if I do
That's how they do
documentary
it.
on this,
That's how they do it.
yeah. Theo, if I do
Yeah,
a documentary
that's
on
the
this,
rule.
can you get it onto PBS? if I do
What?
a documentary on this, on the implementation of Rep My Block across the different states. Can you get us on
I don't.
PBS?
It is not me who put it on PBS. It is the. It is
Fine.
the. I don't know how he did. They have their own network. He went to school, and PBS. Someone at PBS picked it up. I have no idea who it is. You
Okay.
have to talk to
Hamid, yeah,
to,
I got it.
Hamid.
I'll reach out. All right, thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know,
Okay,
it's
okay.
a team effort.
Yeah.
So I don't know how everybody does what they do in their magic.
All right, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah,
Well, I
have
just
a
wanna-
funny story about bylaws and the Democrats. I rejoined the Democratic Party at the end of 2013 and was able to obtain a copy of the county party bylaws. And they said during primary elections, the party itself may not support one Democrat over another, the primaries. Great bylaw. They had been pretty well observing it for many years. And by the time I was running in 2022 for the U.S. House, the primary that I ended up winning, they had a meeting of the state party executive committee about 3 months before the primary. So they were meeting in February and the primary was in May. And they wouldn't let me attend in person. If I had tried to attend it, they would have called the police and had me arrested for trespassing. But they did allow me to listen in on it. And I guess that was a mistake because I was able to hear them, the last item of business before adjourning was that we're going to amend the bylaws to allow county parties and the state party to endorse one Democrat over another, which, defeats the whole purpose of having primaries at all. It's supposed to be the voters who decide. But they amended their bylaw, and I listened to it all and took notes. And that went into one of my lawsuits.
But Jeff, we know they're going to do that. They do that in New York all the time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we know it. So what we do at Rep My Block is we don't concentrate on where the pole is, where the goalpost is. We know they're moving the goalpost every time. So we stay behind, like Dion, like I said, Dion, we burn candidate. And when we have a candidate that decides to run, we know they're going to be burned. And we burn them because they accept to be burned. So we send someone in, they welcome him with open arms, but they going to be stabbed by our people when he comes, and then they get put in the blacklist. And that's what happened with many of the Rep My Block users, that they are being burned by the Democratic Party, but we have more people coming in that they know that they move the goalpost. So we don't waste time with lawsuits. We don't waste time wasting money. We just throw people at it who wants to change the game, but they know, we tell them straight in, you're going in, you're going to get burned, but are you willing to do it? Are you willing to put your body for one round? And that round, they move the goalpost. We place people all over the place, that the only place they can move the goalpost is where we want them to put it. And we push it that way every time. For example, when I started, my building was literally, I needed to get votes from my building only. And what they did at the Board of Election, they redistricted. So suddenly my 60% of the people I knew became 30% because they expanded my district. And suddenly I had to go next door with people I didn't know, and they expected me to disappear. And I haven't. And so basically they will move the goalpost. They change the election law. They go to the legislature and we need to change this bylaw. So suddenly they make either the voting pool bigger or they make it smaller just to screw with you. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
you can spend your time writing lawsuit, and you will lose because the judges are in the pocket of the Democratic and the Republican Party. So
that's right.
why waste your time on all that? It's easier to go recruit a Dion, turn a Dion into a political machine, and then get more people and get Grace and Grace, so many more people, DJ, and each one do what they want. Like the consultant said earlier, you have to have fun. And suddenly, by doing that, we managed to have DJL be DJL the way DJL was brought up, and he drives everything nuts. And I had people come to me, oh, there was this Asian guy that did this. And I'm like,
Right. Right.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I filed about a dozen over the last 12 years. Filed about a dozen petitions for certiorari at the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm not an attorney, but I learned how to do it through practicing. And so what Dion is doing, he formed a third party, he and his friends and colleagues. And that's what we did in Kentucky also in 2024, the end of November 2024, we had our founding convention of the Kentucky Party. And we're welcoming anybody.
do you have fusion in Kentucky?
Actually,
That's the
can I answer
important
that?
part.
Can I answer that?
But do you have fusion in Kentucky? I wanted to know. Because
Yeah, Kentucky.
oh, you do have fusion, because if you
No,
don't have
fusion. No, what's fusion? What is it?
fusion means basically you put a name on the ballot, like Dion was talking about. What is name of the Democrat? Basically, every vote for the same name, regardless of party, gets tabulated together.
No, we
So-
we don't have that at all.
Only two states have that.
DJ wanted to ask a question, I
So
think.
no, but the important part is for Dion's plan of the Conservative Party to work, you need to have fusion. If you do not have fusion, you basically splitting the vote. Instead of fusion allows to put them back together. And that
Teo is right. Teo is right. Yeah.
So I have made a few lawsuits during the last 6 years, and I've had a lot of success actually. But I didn't just do the lawsuits. I also contacted each and every governor and secretary of state in every state, and I pointed out the things that were wrong that they were doing, and I went at it from different angles. I used to social media, to lawsuits, to emails. I didn't call a lot. I like things in print, something documented. It's hard to document a phone call. So I usually use writing, and that does the trick. I really scared a lot of the states back in 22, where in 23 and 24 they held hearings to find out about how many fake names were on all the registering to vote lists that are out there. And 24 states came forward and announced that they had fake names on their list. And then Texas came forward with the most so far. They said they had 1 million wrong names, or actually over 1 million. So this all happened because of a lawsuit that I made about the concept of registering to vote. And certain states like New York and California have not come forward. They refuse to announce how many they have. But having lived in New York State and having voted or supposedly voted in New York State, I have actually most of my worst voting experiences from that state. So I can only imagine it's enormous. Probably half the vote is fraudulent. And
I disagree with
got
that.
to this. I only got to this point because I did my lawsuits. Also, pro se. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an artist, and I even have dyslexia. So, I mean, this is like beyond me to write a lawsuit, but I did, and I had a lot of great experiences from it. I still have a lawsuit pending with the Supreme Court currently. Yeah, I did one of the things called the Rule 22. It's the one where if you want to stop somebody from being executed, on death row, you fill out this to a specific judge. It doesn't go so quick, so I wouldn't recommend using this as trying to save somebody from death row. But in this case, it's working, and they've still got it, and they're still working on it. So you have to keep sending it back, and you keep sending it back, and this is where we are. So registering to vote is, I hope, one day going to be something of the past, but currently it is still what we're doing. But again, you have to keep at it. You can't just come with one way. You have to do it in multiple ways. And I do find lawsuits to be very successful. I will also say that my first time running for president was back in 2020 with the Green Party. And I filled out their Green Party questionnaire, which they have a great questionnaire. And it gives a lot of information, but in, just short paragraphs so that people can digest it. And I think that was also very good. The Green Party is really good, but sadly, they've never been in power. And so that's why I can't, they are the ones that are closest to my heart, I think. But they don't get into power. So
Susan, I would love
it's
to talk
tough.
to you.
Yeah. I could just, oh, okay, I'll go short. Mine are short. Susan, who was the one that was surprised that the New York State Constitution has that two major parties control the elections? Somebody said, wow, that's how it worked. Who said that?
That's
Grace
me.
or Susan? Susan,
That was
okay, I'd
me.
like to speak with you afterward. And also, did you really say that 50% of the votes are fake? Don't say that. I don't
I
think
did
that's
not
true. And
say I did not
okay.
say
The
that, but
registration,
I
she
said
said
it
the
could be
registration.
Oh,
that there are 50% of the New York State registered voters are fake. It could be
Well,
because
well,
New York State did
yeah,
not
I'd
come
be
forward.
careful. I wouldn't say that, but
but I
I
will
do say
I
say,
would.
there's a lot of mistakes, but I'm not going to say
I
50%.
will
Say
say, I
dead
will
or in jail. Dead or in jail.
no, that will say that the New York State doesn't kick out people when they move out of state. And what
That's
I
true.
realized
That's
now,
true.
when I knocked on door, a lot of people didn't live there anymore, but they were never dropped out of the board of election.
Right. Right. You,
Exactly.
you know how many times I've gone how many
But
times I've gone petitioning, and even before I was a candidate, I would come across people that didn't live there anymore, and I would make a note of it, and I would give it to the who when I was a Democrat, I did it with them. When I was a Republican, I did it with them, and nobody takes them off the voter rolls.
because
Nobody
it's too much work.
investigates
And
it.
then
It's
and
too
then
much
They
you
do
don't
it
work.
have
on
to show
purpose.
ID to vote. You don't have to show ID to vote in New York
And
City.
and,
You
No,
can
and
you
walk right
remember,
in there.
no, no, you
but
do the
also,
first time
al-
you vote. The
but
first time you
also,
vote, you have to show ID, and
But
but
if
then
you're
also
you
remember. I just want to
if
just
you're
one
on the
point.
registered to vote list, then you've already voted. So then they don't look for any ID.
no, they
Which is
look for your signature.
crazy.
No, it's coming through. It's going to come through.
So but so,
Okay, Dion, what did you want to say?
Yes, the question should be directed to me. It's my turn to speak. All right, this is what I wanted to say to Jeff. Basically, the Conservative Party is already established political party, and you mentioned creating your own party, which is fine, but that would work out ideally in New York in the sense that number one, we followed the AOC model, but locally, not on the big scale for our small economy here in the Bronx, which is not small. And just like the DSA, Democrat Socialists, we try to be complementary to the major two parties and swing votes either way. So, for example, we try to find a conservative Democrat or make a local Democrat conservative and have our values attached. Just like the DSA, they find a Democrat, but then they find a Democrat with their own ways. But DSA does it differently, where they created their own ideology and they just leached on to the Democrat Party. Whereas we took a skeleton political party, third party that existed already, and used it and tried to reactivate it as such and try to move it that way. Now, there's the Working Families Party, which can actually do that, but with fusion voting and cross-party endorsement, if it became nationwide, would be a good thing to give third parties the leverage they need, if that makes sense.
but so I wanted to piggyback on what you just said, basically. I mean, and for Susan and Jeff, because my issue with the Green Party is exactly that. They will never get to power because they're too small. They're the third party. They're the third party member, but still they're too small because they will never be able to have the number of people within the Republican and the Democratic Party, period. So, but they do. And the thing is, what I started working on is following the ideology. And you mentioned you close to the Green Party more than what the rest. So we started the Global Green USA inside the Democratic Party to bring the green ideology inside the Democratic Party, the same way I'm doing with the socialist ideology. And what Dion has is even bigger than us because he already had the Conservative Party as an established party on the ballot. So he can challenge both the Republican conservative and the conservative conservative. So we need to get there for all the parties, but the Green Party wants to be like the Conservative Party, but cannot be like the Conservative Party because they don't have the money, they don't have the people with the belief system that the Conservative have, and we need to reach that level across the board. So if you want to start to work with Global Green USA, which is a 501c4, which does exactly what DSA does, but for the green. But the Green Party is pissed at me for that part. So just putting it out there. And it works because when we started 7 years ago, DSA didn't exist. Well, they existed, but suddenly by kicking the Democratic Party from inside, well, Zoran, unlike Dion and Grace, they don't like him, but it is the accomplishment of a lot of work of fighting that moving, the pole moving left and right. So it does,
I don't like him because he's a socialist
of
and he's
course,
a silver spoon baby that wants to try to dictate to us po folk that what we need and what we don't need.
but that's
Um
but that's
however, I am looking to see what he's going to do. For example, I like the fact that he said New York is now an open carry city, right? Did he say that? If he said that, if that's the case, I'm going to be open carrying. That's perfect. I'm a Second Amendment girl. Okay. So there's certain things, there's good ideas. It's just how he's going to implement them is the problem. You can't keep taking from the rich, and giving it to everybody, so everybody's going to be on. People want different things. People
But
want to have more than other people. That's just no human nature. But I'm
but
not
that's the
opposed
point.
to him.
Is
Opposed to him.
But that's the point, Grace. We have disagreement. But the point is, what we cannot have disagreement is on the fact that everybody weaponized the board of election, and we have to figure out how to unweaponize. So our word, our values can be heard out there, and voter can make a decision.
Listen, if I thought I could go back to the Democrat Party to infiltrate, I would.
But I don't want you to do that. I want you
No,
to
I know, because they know who I am already. They already know. I ain't caving. I mean, I could play their game, but they wouldn't trust me. That's the thing.
But then do it within the Republican Party, because that's what I'm trying to get a lot of dinos to go back into the Republican Party and build the Republican Party, so the Democratic and the Republican Party at least have the same size. Because right now, even the size of the Democrat and the Republican is too wide.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
Okay.
but for example, in upstate, you have 80% Republican, 20% Democrat. In New York City, you have 80% Democrat, 20% Republican. And
Uh-huh.
then in the third party level, conservative, green, and all those other parties are hovering at 10,000 people, where everybody
Right.
else is hovering at 500,000. So
Right.
we need to bring back Republican Democrat to 50-50, and then
Yeah.
the rest will start climbing up.
Well, yes, and part of the problem, what the cause of it is all the gerrymandering. The Democrats have been doing it for decades, and now they want to cry foul when the Republicans are
It
finally
doesn't matter.
starting
Forget
to
the
play the
Republican and the
same game.
Democrat. Forget
What?
them. Forget the Republican and the Democrat. They are to get basically everyone or everywhere around the world. Basically the organization of an election is done by the government. In the United States, it is the party system. So basically, because the two-party system that come first, basically they even broken up the organization of the election in two in the United States. In China is one party, in America is two party. So basically they managed to keep us apart by creating this false narrative that we need to be against each other, when in fact we need to bring back the Democratic and the Republican into a one-party system in a way, and look at them as one and not as two, but as well not fight against them. To say we all part of that nebulous called party system, and it's weird. And you need to have a Star Trek mind to see it. Because it's the same thing. It is basically the Democrat and the Republican, they keep us split, so we'll never put them together. But once we put them together, that's when change will start happening in America.
Yeah. Well, you know I'm a Trekkie, right? So I get what you're saying.
Well, anyway, so that's the job that we have in a weird way.
I got
Sorry about that.
It's Elena.
Yeah, no, sorry, that was an accident. No, I just heard something about the Democratic and the Republican Party. We have to put them together. I think the opposite, folks. I think we have to break them apart, because they are one. And as a Moms for Liberty, I talk with girls all across the country, with my co-founder. We might think it's unique to our states, but it's across the board. So we need to get us together, not them together. They are together. They're probably going to the same country clubs and everything else. They're all protecting their power. And what we do in Queens is, it's county committee. It's really, really the grassroots. It's building from the bottom up. It's not trying to get the top down. It's building from the bottom up. And the more we fill those county committee seats, and we, put somebody in every seat, they can't knock us all off the ballot. I mean, I'm a victim of them. Every time I run, they're trying to knock me off the ballot in some way. by running someone against me. And, I confronted them on it, but, you know, I don't know. Let's see what happens last year because I really had my say at the last county reorg meeting about it. But if we get somebody in every empty seat, even though like in New York, what they do is the people who are in the Board of Elections, they put their names in and their jobs are on the line because they have to sign the proxies, they have to do whatever they want them to do. But we still managed to pick up a lot of seats this year. It's not an instant fix. It takes quite a bit of time, but we have to fill the county committee seats. We have to community organize.
Elena, that's what I meant by bringing the party, the Democratic and the Republican together, is by filling up all those seats because they keep us separated. Because you get frustrated when you go to your county committee, you get frustrated as you say, I'm leaving this thing. And because they're separated, people leave one for the other all the time. And basically they play on the game of that separation of the two parties. So when people recognize they are one, suddenly that's when the magic of the county committee happened. And that's what I meant by they're the
I
same.
got it. I was a little confused by that.
So Project Civica, things like that, we need to, and when I was saying we need to burn people, is through the county committee, because once they discover who you are in your county committee, they'll burn you and they'll put you on that blacklist. So that's what I meant. So Elena, you're doing exactly what needs to be done. There is, I'm sorry.
Probably. Well, we actually we had a little strategy with Kara. Sorry, DJ. When Kara sued, okay, we sued along with her, about a dozen of us from Queens Village, because we went around and got those signatures legitimately, okay, and we sued them for disenfranchising our votes. We're going around, we're collecting signatures, and you just knock her off the ballot and coronate somebody. We didn't, we dropped it because it takes a lot of money to fight these people, but we tried a different strategy. I think they were stunned, and that's why you probably did get knocked off because of me. But you know what? We just have to keep growing our group of, our group. We're doing the right thing. I mean, you saw we have 3 clubs together this year. We got Rockaway Republican, we got ours, we got Central Queens. We had 3 clubs in Queens Village, and we're growing. We used to have Whitestone, but when our Whitestone person wanted to get elected, she sided with the county.
Of course.
Okay, and we would have had 4 clubs together against the county.
So,
Yep, we have our 151st this year.
So
I'm sorry about that.
Well, do you want me? I can give Steve Gilliam a call and find out, just test the waters to see what's going, if they possibly maybe didn't know about it. I don't know who you sent it to, but we can always test the waters. I could call Steve.
Hi, Jeff. Well, Elena, I'll send you an email. I'm interested in sending you an email because Rep My Block is literally non-partisan, and Project Civica logged in, realized I was a socialist, and suddenly they disappeared.
Yes.
So, but the point is the idea is to get as many people in the county committee based on their belief system. So, if you have 4 club and DJ knows and to see what we can do to get even more people, because I have the same problem here in Manhattan with Edwin de la Cruz, who's the Republic North Manhattan Republic. Uh, I,
No,
no, but
Edwin.
the point is, I'm not
Yeah.
here with Rep My Block to block anyone. It's about representing the block. So whoever wants to do it, they're welcome to do it. And then if someone is unhappy with them, all they have to do is put more people than the other side. And eventually, I mean, that's the game of the game. The voter will decide who at the end of the day is the right person for that neighborhood. And then after that, like DJ said, you do your deal in the back room, but we're in the back room with everybody doing deals. And at the end of the day, it's how many people you put on the county committee. So you come in and you say, oh, I have 65 people. I want this. And usually that's how it works. Elena, I think you saw that. And they will do as much as they can to put oil on the floor for you to sleep up left and right.
Hey, yo. What's the shoes? Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Dion, go for it. I mean, I'm
Okay,
listening.
yeah. All right. So we have a lot of people here that, are off camera and kind of, in the background. I just want to know who they were because I think we just lost them.
Hi, yes, it ain't dope. That's Alex Brass, and I'm also affiliated with Justice for Earth Peer Coalition. We're trying to remove police from mental health crisis calls after my cousin Earth Peer was killed in Brooklyn about 4 years ago while he was in a mental health crisis. Thanks for having me on. It's an interesting conversation. I'm I'm just observing and listening. Thank you.
Well, DJ, I mean, for anyone who wants to run for a county committee, on the 22nd, 2 days before petitioning, we are having the tabling. We're tabling guerrilla style on Times Square. So because this is the First Amendment, they cannot kick us out. So we put our table, our logo, and we welcome everybody to come, like Mother for Justice, and maybe Chaina, you too. You can bring your table and talk to people. And we're inviting every candidate that we can get our hands on to come on the 22nd to discuss their platform on the street, just one-on-one and things like that. So DJ, you came last year, right? With the naked cowboy woman.
On paper, yes, I'm a Democrat,
Oh,
and no, not nothing. I do like a lot of volunteer work, and stuff in my community. But as far as like running for actual office, that's not really something I see for me right now. I guess we'll see in the future. But right now, I'm just like I said, with my cause, I'm interested in like lobbying and more stuff like that. Like we're going to Albany on Tuesday, for Daniel's Law. Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. Okay. Mhm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Shayna, just to give you the other side, it is as simple to run for president of the United States or as complicated to run for county committee. People don't understand it's the same process. But for county committee, basically it is the body, the board of the Democratic, Republican, Conservative Working Families Party. Basically, they're the board, and it's simply asking your neighbor, I want to be on the board of the decision-making party. So it is not running for office. And because the process is the same to run for president of the United States or county committee, people think that when they're running for county committee, they're running for president of the United States. No, they're simply running for the board of the party that control the election. So by running, yeah, but the work is the same. You want to run for president, you have to go through the same petitioning. So people think that when we say run for county committee, you're running for office. No, you are not running for office. You're just running for volunteer position for representing your little block of where you live in Brooklyn. So you're representing 6 buildings, and from there you go and you sit and you network. So when you're in county committee, having to go to Albany, we don't do that anymore because the county, the elected official in Albany come knock at our door and say, I need your support. So please vote for me at county. And suddenly you're like, oh yeah, I'll vote for you at county if you go do that in Albany. And suddenly you don't even have to fret buses. You don't have to do anything. So just to say it in a weird way, that it gives you a lot of power. And I'm sure Elena will back me up on the Republican side for when you have uptown people. Well, you can do whatever you want. Don't get me stopped.
And DC,
And DC.
and DC. I just went to DC. But I just want to say again, like Theo said about the county committee, it's not a political office. It's a county position. And what it is, you're not working with the Democrats. You're working with your part. Well, if you're a Democrat, you would be working with the Democrats. But if you're a Republican, you're working with the Republicans. So it's not like you have to knock on, like me as a Republican, I'm not interacting with the Democrats, which is very hard. I'm just interacting with the Republicans, which can be hard too, because some of them are so disenchanted, they're nastier than the Democrats. But and it for me, it was a matter of 10 signatures. And I live in a co-op and I can't knock on doors. So I have to do it by word of mouth. And I actually doubled my signatures because it's always advisable to get extra signatures. So they can't get rid of knock your signatures off the petition. It could be 2 signatures. So it all depends on your area, how many Republicans. It's not really a monumental task. Unless you had 500 Republicans in your area, then you'd need a lot of signatures. But usually that's not the case in New York City.
So on the Democratic side, the number is basically is magical. It's 5% of the voter. So you need 5% of the voter. Since you have in New York 80% Democrat, 20% Republican, right there you see already the difference in the 5%. 5% of a million is not the same as 5% of 50,000. But anyway, just wanted Shayna, if you feel like DJ Elf is the Rev My Block ambassador, so he does the ambassading.
Also, it's
Thank
pro
you for that.
bono. Also, it's pro bono, so you're not getting paid. And on top of that, you can tell everybody I'm pro bono and I'm not getting paid, so it's not really a conflict of anything because that's what they try with me.
Yeah, it is a volunteer position, and it's like doing to be on the board of a 501c3. Basically, you only have one meeting, and you elect the chair, the treasurer, and the secretary of the party, and the person you choose together as a group will decide how corrupt will the Democrat or the Republican be.
Yes, but I have to be careful not to be borderline labeled a lobbyist because then I have to be public record as lobbyist. So for people like Children's Health Defense and these guys, when we go to Albany, I just introduce them to my people that I know or how to navigate, the egg and all these wonderful things to get to the offices, things like that. And if I know a politician personally or staffer, I was like, hey, can we get a quick meeting or say hi? And then part two of this, which you guys should know, is that usually Valentine's Day weekend, Black History Month, whatever you want to call it, they do something called the Black, Latino, Asian Caucus Weekend. And it's good to go over there for networking if you're an activist in the egg with all the tabling and things of that nature. If you can find a local elected official that has a free bus going up, then hop on their little free bus or whatever the case may be, or even your organization. Say, hey, you might want to invest in this weekend because this is where you're going to get access to all the blue team minority people. Now, mind you, there are some Republicans, but they're not really participating, but I'm trying to push people in that direction if they're going to make a dent in winning anything. Oh my God, Ed Lee, run! Somebody call Ron Kim.
That's exactly
I
what they
ran
do.
away from
That's
you.
exactly what they do. Yeah.
No, Grace Lee is an Asian politician that knows him. Like a lot of Asian
Korean
Oh,
American.
that Grace. Okay.
know either Ed or they know of Ed because of other Asian
They
politicians.
run away. as
He's like the
fast as they
number one
can.
Asian activist in New York City, by the way.
Like, okay, so like the Burr Poll and stuff like that, the Black Puerto Rican, that's what the name of the event's called, the one that you're talking about. That's really a fest for not-for-profit directors, and
that's how to keep the money circulating, my friends.
yeah,
I'll play the
okay.
check.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, it's very important.
I don't know. Yeah, for the regular person, I guess that's a good place to go. For me, I think it's
Yes, it's easy to get starstruck at these things, and it's very intimidating by yourself. But that's why we have sessions like this where there is safety in numbers and help you navigate that space. Otherwise, this monster will absorb and consume you.
All right.
Oh yeah, the consuming. That's what we try to avoid and teach people not to get confused, consumed, because they will put you down to spend so much time on that starstruck thing. So,
Okay,
Dion. So DJ, go ahead, Susan.
Yeah.
Is it time to say goodbye?
Yeah, we went already 3 hours. That was like pretty long. Yeah, like I didn't even think it would go the whole 3 hours, but it did somehow. So
Good, Ed.
unless
Good.
anybody
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Does anybody else
this
have any
was
questions
good.
or issues?
Not at this moment. Thank you.
Susan, I really appreciate your generous donation, and if you want to, I could actually have you as an underwriter. If you want to leave a final message, I'll make sure it gets into the video. But it's just going to be a live stream, by the way, right? Yeah. Did you want to give any last messages?
Oh, I guess, yeah. So I am some kind of a candidate, but my
Perennial
problem is I
Perennial.
refuse to register to vote. And right now in West Virginia, you have to register to vote if you want to be a candidate. So that
That's
means I have to
anywhere.
make a lawsuit because that's unconstitutional. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that I have to register to vote to be considered a candidate. So this is
Well,
a huge problem. And I have, like I said, a lawsuit pending with the Supreme Court already on registering to vote, and I will be running for president again in the 2028 presidential election. Now,
Okay.
which party I'm going to be with, I don't know, because I find that both the Democrats and Republicans are completely corrupt, and we cannot go forward with any kind of a country as long as they are in power. So if you want to find out more about me and what I'm doing, my website is susan4usa.com. That's Susan, the number 4, USA.com. And I'm all over the internet, YouTube, Facebook, X, and many other platforms. So just put my name into Google and you'll find all sorts of information about me. I have over 800 videos all about different topics. So anyways,
Thanks, Susan. You've been a
thank you very much.
constant supporter for our, we also were at the MLK Day and all this other thing. So you've been a constant supporter. You were there when you confronted Kamala Harris. So thanks again for your constant support. God bless you. Yeah. And shout out to Elena. I know she also made a donation for this particular event. Thank you so much, you and your husband. And I guess that's it. Shout out to Brian. His work has also helped us get contact with all the candidates across the nation, which actually is very strangely, right? I have candidates from past elections, but no candidates during this election decided to attend today. Very strange. Or send their volunteers or staff to learn from today's professional consultants. But we've documented everything, so continue on.
quick question, DJ. This is recorded. Can you send the recording to my email or everybody's email? Because I got here a little bit late.
Yeah, I'll upload this. Actually, Jay's thing was awesome. Once again, I want to shout out Dion. He's a great consultant as well too. Very reliable. And I have another channel that I have DGL7 Raw, so I'll upload it there and send you guys a link to that one. I don't think I'm going to upload this for general consumption. I might put it behind a paywall or something, but I will release it to everybody who attended today, so you guys will have it. It'll be up for a while, then I'll take it down. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments before we end?
Nope. That's it.
Thank you for attending. Yeah. Now that we're getting the higher level information, I'm not so. I am open source, but I'm not going to expose my throat to the world. I'm gonna have my edge. Thank you so much for attending. God bless. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you. Bye.
Good night.